Welcome to Backpacker Radio, presented by The Trek. I am your co-host, Zach Badger Davis. Sitting to my right is...
Hi, I'm Juliana Chaunce, a.k.a. Chaunce.
I sounded way more excited about that than
I know, you're never that excited for me.
You gotta get the people going.
What about me today made you so happy to see me?
It's certainly the gun's out.
I've got my Backpacker Radio, the PBR, BPR.
Yeah, it's a good looking
shirt.
It's a good looking shirt. Is that one still in the store?
It is. It's a tank, so it's great for summertime. I'm ready for summer. The soft guns are out. My bruise has developed.
Yeah, it's certainly. I saw you 2 days ago, and it's developed quite a bit.
You like that?
Man, that's gnarly.
Yeah.
She fell off a fence soberly.
Technically slid down, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was very graceful.
Yeah.
It was. Not to brag.
Let's do a quick question of the day, then we'll get to our interview here today. Is this a you question?
I texted this to the group at about 4 a.m. one night.
Okay.
Yes.
I must have missed that text. Excluding water, what's the difference between spiders and octopus?
That's my question. What is?
Yeah.
One shoots out ink, one shoots out webs.
Yeah.
8 legs.
Yeah. I wouldn't even think to compare the two. The 8 part, I get that. Everything else is, I'd say everything beyond the 8.
Just water.
Yeah. Octopus are incredible, and spiders are just, I mean, spiders are cool too. The whatever material they produce as their spider web. Apparently, I read this as like a second grader, and it stuck with me ever since, so it could be total bullshit. But they were researching what the material was to try to replicate it and use it as bulletproof vests because it's stronger than Kevlar by weight.
Oh, I think I heard about that.
Yeah. I don't know. You'd figure they would have figured that out in 20 years or so.
Yeah.
We have 3D printers. You can print like dildos and stuff, but we can't make spiderweb bulletproof vests.
But you're arguing for spiders here.
I'm definitely more pro octopus. I want the record to show. And I'm not one of those that has a spider. I'm not a arachnophobic. I don't have arachnophobia. I'm okay with spiders, but octopus are incredible. And I liked octopus my entire life, but after watching my octopus teacher, I was sold.
Maybe it's because I didn't watch that, but I'm kind of in the mindset of
it's so good. You have to watch it.
Spiders are land octopus in my mind right now.
Yeah. Octopus camouflage.
So does spiders. Wolf spiders, you never see them in the grass.
That doesn't mean there's a difference between not seeing them, mostly because they're small and are just in areas where they're concealed, and actually like your body changing to match the environment is a very different thing.
Yeah, to some.
Octopus in captivity, like they can solve puzzles, they use tools. They're aliens. They're absolute aliens.
I'm just saying there's more similarities than differences here.
I didn't think this question would get me going, but
yeah, I'm actually excited by this, by your excitement.
I like octopus.
You came in ready today.
Octopi.
Spide-eye.
Do you have anything you want to add to that?
No.
Okay.
I didn't have anything really to start with it. It was just a question.
Quick couple of reminders. Suggest a guest. We have mentioned that in the last couple of shows, I think, but the link to that will be in the show notes. Special extra bonus points to people who are passing through Colorado. Today's interview is going to be in person. I'm very stoked on that. And the other thing is the deadline to fill out our listener survey is June 15th. This will make Rachel's day. So you know how much we sweet talk Rachel on this podcast. Please do this as a niceness to her because this gives her all the opportunities in the world to express her graft and spreadsheet skills.
Yeah, like don't think about it as you're doing it for us. You're doing this for Rachel. I brought up a new spreadsheet to her yesterday, like timidly, because I didn't know if she wanted more work. And she told me, quote unquote, I am giddy at the thought of this. So she loves organizing data. And also, this is her chance to come like be macho boss in the room and like almost roast us and tell us what we need to do better.
There you go.
So we like
that. Turns into behind the scenes roasting. And maybe if it's good enough, in front of the scenes roasting. Okay, let's get to our interview. Anna McKinney is a trek writer. Anna walked away from ordinary life in 2021 to thru-hike the AT. Shortly after completing her first long-distance trail, she realized she'd no longer be content working a traditional job. Anna moved to East Tennessee and now works as a professional backpacking guide in Great Smoky Mountains National Park. Anna and her fiance, who's in the vehicle consuming ice cream currently, recently completed the Arizona Trail.
Oh, that's what my fiance is doing out in the car.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you mentioned that you're very excited to go back to a fart-filled vehicle.
Uh-huh.
Nice.
Neither he nor Pimento, our hiking partner, have any lactose issues, but I feel like after consuming a half-gallon ice cream, there's going to be some gas.
Yeah. I think that's true for most people, right? Like maybe I do have lactose intolerance, but after doing the half-gallon challenge, it was a disaster.
I don't think you're supposed to feel good
No.
after consuming that much ice
I mean,
cream.
just the sugar by itself, but it exited my body in a way that it let me know that that's not something that humans should do.
It's fair.
Yeah. Let's start off with, I should know this, and it's slipping my mind. What's your trail name?
It's magic.
Magic.
Ooh.
What's the story behind that?
Just that when I did the AT, people said that I got a lot of trail magic, and people like to hike around me because, I don't know,
You're a
the
magnet to the
trail
good
provided.
vibes.
But then on the AZT, we only got trail magic once. So.
Are you getting so much trail magic by luck, or are you like flashing some extra thigh?
Oh, I think it was just luck.
Okay.
Honestly, I felt like I became much more outspoken though, and so it's like, oh, we need a ride into town. Let me just go wander around the parking lot and work the Southern charm and
I was
see if
gonna say the
anyone will help
accent.
me. Oh yeah, people were into it for sure.
What is, like, if you're going to accentuate the accent and ask Zach for a ride into town, how are you saying it?
Good role playing.
Oh, let's see. Hey y'all, me and my friends, we just really need a ride into town. We're real tired. You think you could help us out?
So you go heavy on the ask. You don't even
turn it on.
you don't
Oh,
even
yeah.
do like the subtle low play being like, hey, do you know where there's a shuttle service around here?
No, straight up ask.
Yeah.
I got really good at approaching pickup trucks. Hey, I see you don't have anything in the truck bed. Do you think we could ride into town with you? Or where are you heading?
Yeah.
Can we come?
Is your company hiring? I feel like Anna would crush
Do you ask for like shuttle info first? Like, do you skirt around the bush?
Yeah, I do. I wouldn't go straight to the ask unless I was desperate.
I wonder if that's like a girl, not to make it a girl versus guy thing, but I wonder if that's a girl versus guy thing. Because I feel like I also do that. I'm just
Yeah.
like, hi, do you want to drive me somewhere?
Yeah.
I felt like you just get really, I was very overconfident, I feel like, when I'm on trail versus in real life. Like, I'm very non-confrontational. Like, I don't want to talk to these people versus Magic will do anything.
Yeah.
Anna does not.
It's your alter ego.
Yeah, literally.
I like that. Okay.
Maybe guys are more used to receiving no's in that specific context.
Yeah,
So-
like guy on guy, more
Yeah.
able to say no to, so you got to butter them up first.
Yeah. Like, again, I'd make a soft pitch, not a hard pitch.
Yeah. I'd just be like, hey, big boy. You want a lady in your trunk?
In your trunk. He's like, actually, I got the duct tape ready to go.
There's already one back there.
Yeah.
You can join her.
Perfect. Company.
So, do you have any standout epic trail magic stories?
The time that I think of about like getting a ride was trying to go into Glasgow, Virginia. We came in, like, we crossed the big bridge that was over the river, and there was a sweet lady that was doing trail magic. And so she like grilled us hot dogs, and there were probably like 10 or 15 of us, and we needed to get into town, and there was a paid shuttle service, but none of us had called ahead. We didn't want to have to pay, and there was a guy with a pickup truck that knew the lady that was doing trail magic, and so I just walked up to him and was like, hey, like, do you think you can give us a ride? And he was like, I don't normally do this, but I guess I will. And so there's a picture. I think there were 10 of us that got into this 2-door Toyota Tacoma that were all in the back. We had our packs ratchet strapped to the top. There's just a lot. And that was a time that I feel like, again, I was real outspoken. But anything that involves food, especially hot food, that's a real treat. Definitely have very fond memories of people grilling for me.
Yeah. So, yeah, I guess that's my other question is, are you walking into organized trail magic sessions typically, or are these like serendipitous, being like, I like your vibe, I'm going to take you back to my house and make you and your entire hiker family
wish. So
lunch?
I feel like it was more so organized things. I will say though, on the AZT most recently, we met a woman the one time that we got trail magic. Her and her husband were at a trailhead And they were just putting out a water cache, and we just happened to walk up on them while they were doing this. And we got to talking, and they're like, hey, like, we live really close by. Do y'all want to come back to our house? And at the time, we had, like, just gotten back on trail. We're like, no, we probably should do some miles, which we kicked ourselves for later because it was a really, really hard day. Lots of elevation, really, really hot. It was super duper miserable. And so we texted her the next day because we got her number, said, hey, like, actually, can we come back to your house? And she picked us up, and we stayed at her house for 2 days. No. 2 nights, 3 days. And she had this beautiful, immaculate garden, and she had an outdoor shower. It was a wonderful experience. So that was a really serendipitous kind of thing.
Yeah. A lot of AT questions, especially a big subject that's directly in Chaunce's wheelhouse. But before we get there, let's get to the origin story. What got you into the outdoors? Because this sounds like a pretty recent development.
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up just outside of Asheville, North Carolina. Was not very outdoorsy growing up. My family went camping, but we camped in a camper, very bougie. And being from the mountains, I don't feel like I really appreciated where I came from. And so I went to college in the eastern part of the state, which is really flat, really hot, totally different from anything that I was used to.
What's cool?
I went to East Carolina University, but missed the mountains, figured that out pretty quickly, decided I hated flatland and wanted to get out of there as soon as I could. So I graduated early and moved back to Asheville and got into backpacking, believe it or not, while I was in school, even though we were in the like flat eastern kind of coastal part of the state. I got involved with the outdoor leadership program at my college, and my first ever backpacking trip was in Grayson Highlands. We went for an overnight or 2 on the AT. And then I moved back to Asheville after I graduated and got into hiking more and met some people that like to backpack. And yeah, it was just something that I did like on the weekends and that I just had fun doing. And then I got laid off from my quote unquote big girl job at the end of 2020 and just decided that I would go and do the AT.
What was the big girl job?
So I used to be a certified child life specialist, which no one knows what that is. But my role was to help pediatric patients cope with hospitalization. So I did a lot of education just about the medical field from a age appropriate level. So I did a lot of just conversations with kids about like, this is what an MRI is. This is what surgery is. Like, you're going to get an IV. This is what that means. And letting kids just be kids in the hospital. So I played a lot of video games. I made a lot of slime. I got really good at air hockey. Yeah, it was an awesome job. I really, really enjoyed it. I'm super thankful for that experience.
Yeah. Was the layoff related to COVID?
Yeah, it was right at the end of COVID, or right at the end of 2020. The hospital system that I worked at laid off like 80 different, what is it? Service? No. I can't think of it, what the term is, but like social workers, chaplains, child life specialists. So there was a mass hospital layoff. It was a big bummer. I was really sad, but it opened up the door for this other really cool opportunity. So.
And it's wild growing up in Asheville with your first backpacking experience and being in Grayson Highlands. I know it's not that far, but like you're so close to so many iconic points, like right there in the AT.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm curious, what was it like going through basically your own backyard for the first time on the AT?
Oh, it was super duper special. I feel like I just have this like kinship to that area, and so it was just really surreal to be these places that like, yeah, I might have been on like a picnic before with my parents, like going to Max Patch, for example, was a really cool thing because it's like, yeah, I've been here before, but this is just, it feels like I got to take ownership of that area so much, and just really made it just so much more sentimental for me. So that like Tennessee, North Carolina section of the trail was just really, really special.
Yeah.
When I had gone, because I had gone through, when you go through like Harriman State Park in New York and Bear Mountain, that's where I'm from. So I had run cross country races around like Bear Mountain and stopped at the bookstore that's in the center of the Palisades Parkway that you have to cross over, like on trips upstate. And it was the same type of thing where like, this is my backyard. For us, it was really hard because it was like, I don't want to get out of bed. I want to stay home, like getting that far. Did you feel those feelings being that close, or was it easier because you were closer to the start of the trail?
Yeah, I think that it was definitely easier just because it was the start of the trail. Like I had just made all these friends. Like I had this family that I wanted to try to stay connected to. I got to see my parents. They came to Hot Springs. Then I had some friends that came to Max Patch. And then I saw my parents again in Damascus, and that was really it. So I feel like they let me like do my thing. Again, my parents were just like, we don't know what our daughter is doing. Like she's just like out in the woods right now. But I guess she's safe.
Yeah. They were cool with it?
Yeah, it took a little while for them to get on board.
Yeah.
I think once they realized that like I was doing it, and they were like, all right, I guess she's fine.
I feel like also when people get a chance to experience it and see just like the rush of hikers out there and just how happy you are, like that is a good effective way to change people's minds.
Yeah, absolutely. They see that it's not this like really scary place, that there aren't a bunch of like creepy men following you around all the time. Only sometimes.
Yeah, I was gonna say not all the time.
Do you have any stories like that?
No, thankfully. I had a really positive experience. I think, though, I'm definitely the kind of person that's just kind of like oblivious to most things. So I just think everyone is great until proven otherwise.
It's a good motto to go by for sure.
Yeah, my fiance is the exact opposite. So he's just like everyone sucks, and there's a bunch of weirdos out here. So we definitely balance each other out in that regard.
Probably plays into you getting so much magic too.
Honestly, yeah. Hey, you got something for me in there?
So how steep was the learning curve? How many trips had you done prior to the AT? You mentioned going through the Grayson Highlands.
Yeah.
How much experience did you have before you got to Springer?
Not many. So I did that backpacking trip in Grayson Highlands when I was in college. I graduated and did the Art Lobe in outside of Asheville, which is like a 30-mile trail. It's pretty hard. Looking back, it was a very challenging hike to do for my second backpacking trip. And then I backpacked 1 or 2 times in the Smokies. But other than that, that was really it. I tried to do a shakedown on the Foothills Trail in South Carolina, which is, I think, about 80 miles. And I made it 30 miles. And I was like, I can't do this. And it was like a month before I left. And so that was very
that shake your
humbling.
confidence. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was. I think it was so good for me though, because I figured out that I didn't know like anything about my gear. That shakedown was the first time that I'd used that tent. It was the first time that I'd used that pack, which looking back now, I'm just like, what did I think I was doing? But
so what specifically went wrong?
Oh, it was really, really cold. So it was the end of February, and it was much colder than we anticipated. I figured out on that trip that I sleep really cold, and so I had a 20-degree bag, and that just didn't do it for me. And so I went home and I bought a 0-degree bag. I bought a liner. I practiced with my tent more. I learned to repack my pack in a certain way. My friends that I did that trail with, they were able to successfully complete the trail or that shakedown hike, and then we started the AT together, and we all ended up finishing, which was really cool. Not together,
okay,
but still, they were a lot faster than I am.
Yeah.
How many friends did you start with?
I started with, there were 3 of us total. So it was myself, my friend Allie, and my friend Kayla. So shout out to Ranger and Bug Bite, and we all finished.
Did Allie and Kayla stay together?
No. So I lost Allie in Hot Springs, and then I lost Kayla probably in Irwin.
Do you think it's better to lose someone because they're going faster, or to lose someone because they're going slower? Like, does that help make it easier, that instead of it being like they're going to hike on because I'm too slow, it's that one person is going to hike on because they're going too fast?
Yeah, I think it was just I knew going into it that I was going to be slower than them. So it was a lot easier to, and it wasn't something that was just like, Anna, you're slow.
Yeah.
We need to go faster. It was just like, I think I want to hike bigger miles. I was like, great, girl, you go do you.
Did you have conversations leading up to starting the hike about like what happens if we find ourselves in this situation?
Yeah, we did. We all knew that we wanted to stay together as long as it was something that was beneficial for us, and as long as we were still having a good time. And we're all still really, really good friends. But it was just like, we want different things out of this experience. Allie ended up finishing a month before I did, so she was cooking.
Yeah.
And Kayla finished, I think, 2 or 3 weeks before I did. So, yeah.
So you had planned for the moment where like you guys needed to hike your own hike and potentially...
Pretty much, yeah. It was just something that was just like, all right, love you, we'll see you at some point. So
it's good to build that contingency, because I feel like a lot of people in your situation would go into the trail socially anxious. I'm maybe just projecting here. That's how I would feel. That's how I did feel. Yeah. And I think I would be more keen to like building the contract, like we're sticking together no matter what, motherfuckers.
Yeah.
To have that foresight to know that like we'll just flake off and do our own thing if it comes to that.
I think it helped that we had met so many other people that it was just like, well, I'm not going to be hiking with them, but I'm still hiking with these other folks. I figured out pretty quickly that I don't like hiking by myself. Like, I don't mind hiking by myself during the day, but I really don't like camping by myself. So yeah, I always had kind of that group of people that I was still connected to. And even when I did go off and like do my own thing for a little while, I still tried to make a point to like, oh, these people are going to be at the shelter tonight. I think I'm going to try to make it there because that's where I felt the most comfortable.
Yeah.
So.
And clearly you did well making friends on the trail. We'll get to that. You mentioned that you switched to a 0-degree bag with a liner. Did that prove to be excessive?
In terms of weight, absolutely. Looking back, I remember we went to the Amicloa and we weighed our packs there, and my pack weighed like 40 pounds. And I remember the park ranger that was there was just like, I don't think you're going to make it with this. And I remember that being very... just really put me down. Didn't feel very good.
Yeah.
So I
they probably say that several times a day.
I know. I definitely, at that point though, I had like so much water. I had so much extra like winter gear because again, I run really cold. So I switched to my 20-degree bag in Hot Springs. I carried my 0 the whole way, or that whole section. I've since upgraded to a quilt, which is significantly lighter. Really, it just came down to I was really cheap and didn't want to invest in ultralight gear. And also at the time, I really wasn't super familiar with ultralight gear. It took me getting into that community to really learn about all these different brands and learn more about base weight, meet a lot of gram weenies, and kind of figure out what worked best for me.
Yeah.
I feel like 40 pounds with full food and water isn't that bad. Like,
it's pretty heavy.
It's heavy. Like, it's by no means ultra light, but I feel like if you have like the start of like a full resupply and it's 40, you're not terrible. You're just like a regular backpack weight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, also part of that is a percentage of your own body weight. And, and it's not massive in stature.
It's supposed to be 20% of your body weight.
Yeah.
So mine should ride between like 30 and 35 pounds, which it definitely, now it does.
Yeah.
But at the time it definitely didn't. When I got it definitely doesn't. But.
Yeah. Yeah, 40 would be less of a deal for me. So what was your process of working your pack weight down?
Figuring out items that I didn't need that I just had in excess. Like I had a bunch of carabiners. I remember my like first aid
classic
supply.
New backpacker stuff.
I mean, you're gonna need them for something. Right? You're probably gonna need that rope too. Yeah. Absolutely.
I actually think I carried one carabiner for the entire trail, and I don't know if I ever used it.
Yeah. So little things like that. I definitely am a creature, or I like my creature comforts, and so I still backpack with a lot of stuff that people would not want to carry. Like I carry a hairbrush.
I do too. You have to. Your hair is so long.
Exactly. Yeah. When I'm in
Look at you too.
I want to.
Well, you'd get dreads if you don't. It starts to dread up.
Yeah.
Hey, Harper. What other things do I
carry? See advantages of having terrible thinning hair. I don't have to think about that stuff.
Trying to think of other things that I carry. I carry a cork ball because I like to like roll out my aching muscles. I use a inflatable sleeping pad. Then I also carry a accordion pad because I like to use that as like a yoga mat and as an extra thing because my pads always pop, and so I have to sleep on my
So you're carrying the full Z-Lite
Heck
edition?
yeah, I am.
Wow. Even on the AZ, even to this day?
Yeah, so on the AT I had a half one,
yeah.
But now I carry the full one because I like to stretch and really relax when I'm taking a break. I carry booties, little down booties.
I love booties.
I have a little down headpiece because I'm real cold.
Wait, like just the headpiece.
I look ridiculous.
Where did you get it from? Because Fireball's gonna do the PCT southbound, and she keeps looking for a sleeping bag that has a hood, and I'm like, just get a head.
I think mine is an Enlightened Equipment, which
is
I have an Enlightened Equipment quilt, and so it's perfect because I can like cinch it up. I always carry my liner because I'm a little baby and like to sleep warm. Usually too on the ACT I carried an Nalgene instead of smart water bottles because I like to boil hot water at night and have a little thermos in my sleeping bag when it's really cold.
You're very prepared for cold temperatures.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with all of this.
Yeah. So it's excessive for a lot of people. I was shocked on the AZT how many people had packs that I would consider day packs. They looked teeny tiny. I'm sure I was much more comfortable at night than a lot of those people. But yeah, everyone is just so different and have different priorities, and so whatever works for them works for them. So
does your puffy jacket have a hood? That's what I use for to keep my dome warm.
It does have a hood.
Yeah.
I don't always sleep in my puffy. I like to snuggle with my puffy unless it's really cold.
Yeah.
But I have a lighthearted gear like pullover that I will usually sleep in. I also carry base layers to sleep in too, separate from my hiking clothes.
So what is your base weight nowadays?
Oh gosh, I honestly don't know. I kind of like not knowing because it really pisses people off. I think I weighed before the AZT and it was 15 to 17 pounds.
Yeah,
I would
that's
say.
good. Especially considering all the extra stuff.
Yeah, I've invested in a lot more ultralight stuff.
Yeah.
And it makes all the difference. I also didn't carry a tent on the AZT. Cade carried the tent.
We love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
having a trail boot makes you way more ultralight.
it does.
I will throw in my 2 cents on the cold head dilemma. What I like to do for the listeners, unsolicited advice, a regular buff for me, I feel like, is just too much material. So I usually cut it in half, and I'll use the half buff as like an ear warmer. But then if you pull it over your eyes, you also have an eye mask.
Mm.
So that I love.
Didn't you wear it as a tube top at one point too?
Sure did.
That's some
If I am
survivor shit,
ever
man.
that thin again, and I will wear it again.
Yeah.
I look back at those photos longingly.
I think the last time I could probably get a buff over my torso was probably like age 8.
Yeah, well, when you're 5'1", and you've
The
been
world's your
hiking for
oyster.
5 months, you can get away with a lot of things.
Yeah. Okay. There's a juicy subject here. I'm gonna toss it over to Chaunce.
Okay. We love. Mainly me. I love love. Zach hates love.
I despise love.
But you met your fiance on
Yeah.
the AT, and I want to hear the full story, all the details, all the juice.
Yeah. So my fiance, his name is Cade. His trail name is Truffles. It is completely by coincidence that Magic and Truffles got together.
Whoa.
People don't think it's a coincidence, but it really is. He got his trail name coming out of the Smokies. He ate a Truffles Lovers pizza at Standing Bear and got food poisoning. So
Okay.
hence the name Truffles.
Sure.
But we met in Virginia. We met at Four Pines Hostel and hiked around each other. I just thought he was a really nice guy. But he was interested in me. And we hiked around each other for a little while, kind of got to know each other more, which was fun. When we were going into Shenandoah, I was going to hike, and he and his friends were going to Aquablaze. So we had a very dramatic goodbye. We had breakfast together at the hotel, and I remember him telling me that I needed to be happy, and any time that I didn't feel happy or that I was questioning what I was doing out here, I needed to give him a call, and he'd give me a pep talk or whatever I needed to do to just stay out there. He said later that he didn't know if that was going to be the last time he saw me, so he wanted to really send it home, But we reconnected in Pennsylvania and finished the trail together and fell in love. But
Were you sad at the separation earlier on?
yeah, it was funny. I kept a journal every night on the AT, and there was one entry where I wrote Truffles is totally in love with me, because I knew that he was really interested, which looking back is just so funny because now I feel like I'm super obsessed with him, and he's just all right, Anna,
But
You
it
gotta-
wasn't.
down.
You have to frame that if you still have the journal. Pull out that page and just frame it and put it on the wall of your married house.
Yeah.
Yes, we totally could. But yeah,
So it wasn't infatuation right off the bat for you?
No, it took a little while. I was definitely distracted with other things and other
Sure.
people, and so I don't know, was just kind of doing my thing. And then when I was hiking through Shenandoah, one of our mutual friends had said, man, he's a really, really good guy.
They're making the pitch for him?
Yeah, not she was trying to set us up. I don't think that she was just I think she was just he is just a good man.
You have to know he sent her to say that. You have to know.
It's so
Yeah.
funny. She, whenever we really got together and got engaged, she texted us and was just I just want to take credit for y'all's relationship.
Yeah,
at this
he
point.
definitely told her to.
He had told me since that her name is Green. Green had told him before we met that he would really like me, and then he met me and was I really like her. And Green was just yeah, Magic, I think you'd really like Truffles. And so it just kind of worked out. But yeah, so when I was in the Shenies hiking, I was alone. You're never really alone on the AT unless you want to be. It's so crowded.
What was your start date?
March 22nd, I
Okay.
think. So I was right smack dab in the middle of the bubble.
Yeah.
But I was in the Shenies and I was hiking and I was alone. I did a lot of thinking, a lot of soul searching, as one does. And I thought about him a lot. And it was just like, this could be something. He does seem really nice. And then whenever we reconnected, we'd like texted and tried to make sure that we would reconnect. And he was hiking with some other friends in Pennsylvania. And so I pushed really hard to try to catch them. And then
Catch them or catch him?
A little bit of both.
You were banana blazing.
Maybe.
As some might say.
I tried real hard, got back to him, and that was just kind of it.
Was he slowing the group up?
Yeah.
Like
100%.
Intentionally
they were
pouring NyQuil into their water?
Did he get some like ankle pain that he couldn't quite pinpoint?
Not quite there, but I think he would have done whatever to make sure that I caught up.
Okay. So. Breaking this down a little further, we get asked this a lot honestly, it's come from both sexes, but the question is, when you're on trail and you are into someone, how do you A, let them know you're interested in them, and B, not creep them out in the process? So what things did he do that let you know, like you said, oh, I know this guy's into me, but B, also didn't make you have like stranger danger, this guy's a creep flags?
Quick follow-up question to that. If he would have been as forward as you are with the trail magic asks, would that have turned you off?
Ooh, I think it would have, honestly. He is someone that's very intentional. And I felt like even though like we're on trail, we're meeting all these people, like it's a really just kind of free-flowing community. I felt like he really was intentional with like pursuing me, which made me feel really, really good.
Specify this, because you have boys listening to this that are like, how?
I know that probably could sound creepy. Don't pursue women in a creepy way.
Her.
Yes. I think he was just really straightforward of just like, I am interested in you. And
he flat out told you.
Yeah, we went on a lot of, we would call them like dates, where we would just like wander off from our group and like go explore fire towers or like go find like a cool
This was when you
lake.
Reconnected in Pennsliania or further south?
Yes.
Okay.
So I guess let me back up to Virginia.
Yeah, because you're calling them dates. You're in on this too at this point.
I think that I knew that he was interested because he took the time to try to like, I could tell that he wanted to like sit next to me and like have conversations with me of just anything and everything. Like we talked about trail, but we talked about like our home life and we talked about our families. And I think that he tried really hard to get to know me at a level that was more than just on trail. Like, ooh, what kind of pack are you using? Like it was just like, tell me about like, what are your parents like? What do they do? It helps that he's real good looking, so I also just say, yeah, I'll tell you whatever, whatever you want.
More questions, please.
Exactly.
Is he offering to like fill your water, hang your bear bag? Is he sneaking in little things like that?
No, I don't think so. Just because I was very adamant of just like, I want to be independent, because we hiked around another couple that people gave them a hard time because they didn't think that the woman in the relationship was like doing as much.
Classic people.
Oh man, I get on my soapbox about that. But so if he ever did anything, I was always just like, you don't have to do that. And he's just like, I know, but I just want to do something nice for you. I think if he had done it incessantly, I would have been like, all right, man, like, slow your roll. But in small increments, it was appreciated.
When did the physical aspect of things come into play? And I'm not talking about doing the dirty, but like first kiss, first handhold, first like touchies.
Footsie.
Ooh, yeah.
Rubbing booties together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When did you first bump butts?
Oh, still haven't done that. We're not married, not yet. So we went on I asked him on our first official date in Delaware Water Gap, and we went out and like got ice cream or something. No, we went to the farmer's market and had the True Love special, which was a hot dog and apple pie.
I've been to that place. That's great.
It was really sweet. We both grew up like real traditional Southern Baptist, and so it was real slow burn, if you will. But we, at one point, I remember in New York, like we were hiking and I was asking him a bunch of questions, and he was like, well, do you have anything else? And I asked him, we were like going uphill, and I was like, are you ever gonna kiss me? Because we're like hiking uphill. And he said, his recollection of the story is very funny, because he says that he turns around and looks at me and I'm wide-eyed and like red-faced and dripping sweat, and I'm just like, are you? And he said that he knew in that moment it wouldn't have been special. So he said, at some point. So we had our first kiss in...
Did it make you more attracted to him that you got soft rejected?
No, I was pissed, man. We had our first kiss at Upper Goose Pond in Massachusetts.
Is it Massachusetts?
Somewhere up there.
Yeah, I remember that, I think, from the long trail, but maybe I'm fabricating that.
I think it is Massachusetts, but I could also be wrong.
Yeah, we went out on the canoe to this island and like got to watch the sunset together, and that was our very romantic first kiss. So then he asked me to officially be his girlfriend, and
where'd he at the same as the kiss?
No, in Killington, Vermont.
How do you do that?
So this was also the night that I moved into his tent and never left.
How did he ask that? There's so many questions.
Oh man! So we had set. It was just dumping rain, and we set our tents up. There was a shelter. The shelter was full because it was dumping rain. So he and I set our tents up, and then like went back to the shelter, I guess, to like eat dinner or something. And then went back to our tents, and my tent had flooded because I was a dumbass and like put my tent in like a just flooded zone
intentionally.
Jury's out on that one.
Next to the fire hydrant.
But so I like walked over to his tent. I was like, hey, like everything's wet. Like, can I come in there? And then
That's smooth.
Yeah, planned. Maybe not, but yeah. So moved in, and he just asked me if I wanted to go steady with him.
Did he say those words?
He did.
Wow.
Direct quote.
Did he mean that sincerely, or was that kind of a joke?
No, it was a sincere thing, just because we had talked about how we were really clear to define, like, is this something that is just on trail? Like, do we want more out of this? We figured out pretty quickly that we wanted something more. So I'm from North Carolina, and he's from Mississippi. So it was going to be like a long distance thing, but we were just going to figure it out as we went.
Yeah.
So.
Not even so much the terms of the relationship, but actually the phrase "going steady." It's just so funny. It's I feel like it's straight out of the 80s, 90s.
Yeah,
it just feels Southern to me.
Yeah. I feel like he definitely probably like said it ironically, but it was like a serious thing of like, this is our relationship. I gave him a hard time, or I gave him a hard time because he like posted on Facebook that we were in a relationship. I was just like, what are you doing? We're Facebook official now? You know?
Are the kids still doing that? Because I remember back in my day, that was a huge deal. Like when you change your relationship status on Facebook, that was a huge deal.
That's how I felt too.
That's the first time I've heard that in a very long time about someone's like Facebook relationship status.
Yeah, I think too, it's just like we're from these two totally separate worlds, and then all of a sudden it was just like, whoa, everyone from his life is going to stalk my Facebook, and everyone from my life is going to stalk him.
Yeah.
I don't know, it felt more, I think a lot of my family still uses Facebook too, and so that felt really real versus like Instagram. Like you can post whoever, and my relatives aren't on there.
Yeah, I feel like that's like introducing them to your family of the internet age.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe I was reading too much into it, but I remember being like, what?
Yeah.
So
I'm sure I have more AT questions, but I'm very curious right now about what was the transition like going from the AT in a relationship to finishing a thru hike and dealing with all like the post trail stuff that happens, and then you guys are from different areas trying to keep that relationship alive.
Yeah, it was definitely challenging. I think too, just because we went back to work. So I was really fortunate and got a job as a hostel caretaker in Hot Springs. So I worked for Blue Ridge Hiking Company and was their caretaker just for like a couple months at the end of the season. But that was the perfect kind of transition back into the real world, because I felt like I got to ride that line of like I was still in this like trail universe, but then also like I got to drive my car and I got to like sleep in a bed every night, which is really, really nice and kind of help aid in that transition back into like, okay, this is who I am now. Whereas Cade, he is a mechanical engineer and he went back to work, like real work. And that was, I think, just a hard thing, because you go from like walking all the time to sitting behind a desk. After my time at the hostel ended, I went to a remote job as well, and that was just really, really draining for me. But we just called each other a lot, and like he would call me every day when he was on his way home from work. And we FaceTimed a lot, and we made the drive to see each other like a couple times.
How far is that drive?
It was about 7 hours, I guess. But we decided that we would move to Tennessee together in that following spring. So we got off trail in September, and then in March of 2022, moved to Tennessee.
Was there ever a point where you felt like the relationship was in jeopardy after the trail? Just because like that's so many different moving pieces to like keep alive.
Yeah.
A trail romance, is challenging in some ways because, you know, just the rigors of the trail can bring out the worst in somebody. But then again, going into your totally separate lives after the trail is a whole different ball of wax. Was it ever to the point where you're like, the love didn't feel like it carried over?
Yeah, that was something that I definitely worried about. And I think that I'm the kind of person that will worry about nothing, or I'll like make up scenarios in my head and I get real anxious about them. But I think that I was really trying to figure out like what I wanted then out of my life, because I'd had this big experience. I knew that I didn't want to go back into like the traditional workforce at this time. So it's like, okay, if I'm going to have this kind of like untraditional lifestyle, is one, that's something that he wants. And then two, is that something that we can do together? And so that was kind of a point of contention until we talked about it more and figured out, yes, this is something that we both want, and something that we can pursue together, because I think that neither of us want to hold each other back from trying to figure out what we want out of life. And once we figured out that it was the same thing, then it was just a really easy transition. It definitely helped when we moved in together and weren't long distance. I think that was, anyone can say that long distance can be definitely challenging.
Yeah.
What were some things that you learned about him off trail that you didn't expect from knowing him on trail? And follow up to that, is there anything you would have asked him on trail that you hadn't, to try to get to know that sooner?
It's a really hard question.
Thanks.
I think that our problem solving skills are very different. Like on trail, you encounter problems that seem at the moment like it's make or break. Like, oh no, we got to town and this hostel doesn't have anywhere for us to stay. Like, where are we going to go tonight? That was something that happened to us. And I remember like sitting on the curb at McDonald's crying a little bit because, oh no, like we're going to have to sleep in this parking lot. And he is just cool as a cucumber. He handles stress much better than I do. But I think then coming into the real world, like now in our like normal life together, we approach problems very differently. And so being able to figure that out and kind of talk through it, I think ultimately communicating is the biggest thing. In terms of questions that I would have asked him to figure that out, I don't know, maybe just like scenario questions of just like, oh, like if we have to make rent this month and we don't have the money, what are you doing?
Really sexy trail stuff.
Yeah, exactly. How are you going to pay your bills? Like, tell me about your financials.
What's your credit score?
Exactly.
How much debt do you have?
Honestly, though, those are real questions, especially since we're getting married. It's just like, all right, man, I need to know what I'm getting myself into. We had a really cheesy date on trail where we Googled like questions to make you fall in love, and it was like questionnaire of like cheesy things to ask each other. And I remember like sitting outside of a pool at some like cheap motel, asking each other these things, and it was just really good to spark those conversations again, because we knew going forward that we wanted to try to stay together. Like it wasn't, I think a lot of people, there's so many opportunities to like just hook up on trail or just get whatever you want out of it, and we knew that we wanted something more. So.
Do you remember any of the questions from that questionnaire?
Oh, I don't.
I'm going to twist that. So obviously people listen to us while they hike, right? There's probably people listening to us while they are hiking that are in a budding relationship. And it's very easy to be like, oh my God, I heard this on a podcast, haha. But then like kind of get the other person's take on it, and you don't actually have to like hard ask the question. Mm-hmm. So I think we should each pose a question that they could take and be like, oh my God, on my podcast they said if you're hooking up with someone on trail, ask them this to get their reaction. But we'll give them good questions to ask. Okay.
Are you going to start?
You start.
When's the last time you were tested for STDs?
Yeah, good one. Okay.
That's a good one.
Yeah, ask them when the last time they were tested was. I'm going to say ask them what they usually do on a weekend at home. Like, what does their typical weekend look like?
Good question.
You'll get to know them a lot by that, because
sure.
I dated a guy where Sunday was cleaning day, and I didn't know that until I lived with him. And then Sunday, he was always very upset with me because I wasn't cleaning.
Yeah, today's bill day.
And I was like, this is relaxed day. This is Sunday scary day. And that was an adjustment, I will say.
Yeah. Oh gosh, do I have to come up with a question now?
Yeah.
Yeah, you could go ask them what they're looking for out here. Are they looking for themselves? Are they looking for just a fling? Or are they looking for a life partner? Because I think some people do go out there hoping they're going to hook someone forever. And I was just lucky that happened to me. I love telling people I found my husband in the woods. They think it's hilarious.
Were you looking for that?
No.
So you would have answered that question wrong.
Yeah, I've been like, I'm just out here to hike, man.
I'm just here for the magic.
Exactly. No, I wasn't looking for that at all, which I think is part of what it just made it so special. Yeah, everyone's out there for different reasons. But
Sure.
I think a lot of folks, when you dig down to the core of it, are wanting to either get to know themselves better, get to know nature better. And there's just a lot of different interpretations of that.
Yeah. I think being not too eager for that is the best place to be to find the right thing. Because if you are too eager, you might say yes to something that might not be the ideal scenario.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think also I'll put an asterisk on this little mini segment. If you could tell that you are the prime pursuer and not the pursuant, maybe tone the questions down a little bit. Like, don't be like, so what are you looking for? As you are still trying to work on bagging the person.
Yeah. It's a good caveat.
Is it fair to say that if you're the guy in a heterosexual context, don't ask these questions? Because most often the guy is the pursuer in thru hiking.
No, not just if you're the pursuer, but if you're like newly pursuing, right?
Mm.
Like if you're still in the chasing phase and like you haven't got them yet, wait.
Yeah.
You know, like tell them you listen to this episode down the road after the fact because you're still trying to like suss out the situation. You don't want to come on too strong.
Sure. So I guess in a similar vein to your question about questions, what are the right questions to ask somebody? I'm curious to know what are the stages of a trail relationship?
Okay, so for these questions, in my mind, where I'm thinking about them is after he's asked her if she wants to go steady.
Yeah.
Because now they've DTR'd, defined the relationship, but it's never too late to break up. That is a rule of life.
Tell me you just made that up and that's
No,
not
that
true.
is a thing.
It's a
That's
definite thing.
Welcome to the lady world.
What podcast is that?
I feel like it's
just
from like
general knowledge.
I don't know. I feel like it was in like a movie similar to Mean Girls. Maybe not. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. But I feel like that is where I first, maybe like Zoe 101. I definitely feel like they talked about that.
I feel like I just picked it up off the streets.
Okay.
Street smarts.
But I would say, my ankle's itchy. I would say once that he asked her to go steady, now they're in a technical relationship, but they haven't taken the relationship off trail yet. So that's where you ask these questions because you can always break up,
That's
right?
true.
Like,
you can just hike away from them.
yeah. So better to find that out before you bring him home and introduce him to everything, that like they're a person that wakes up at 5 a.m. on a Saturday to go run a marathon.
Yeah.
And they hope that you join them, right? Like do your own thing, great. But if you hope that I join you, this might not work.
Yeah. Well, so back to my question, Anna mentioned that they were at a phase where they were having dates on trail.
Sure.
I would say that's a stage of the trail relationship thing. And then prior to that, there's some exploratory where you're
Okay.
getting to know each other.
You want me to walk through the whole thing?
Yeah, let's
I think we need
let's
a
go through-
diagram.
Sure.
Exactly. Some sort
Okay.
of pyramid.
Step 1, you see the person, initial reactions, right? Like initial attraction, is it there, is it not? Second step, you get to know them. Sometimes personality compensates, and then you're attracted to them based on like who they are, right?
We have to have names for the stages.
Okay, this is the exploratory stage. Exploring.
What was the first one?
This is the first one.
Oh,
Yeah, before that you don't know them. That's the dark phase.
okay.
Now we're in the exploratory phase. You're sussing it out. This is where like you get like what are these feelings vibes, you know, like does this guy like me or do I like this guy or gal or whatever, and you're kind of just, you know, exploring.
Wait, the last stage was the exploratory. Are we
No,
still?
we're in it. I'm just describing it.
Okay.
From the exploratory phase, I would say comes like the phase of it being known, right? Like I know this person's into me. That phase that you were in, right?
Crushing.
And now you're deciding, do I want to do something with this? You know, I know this person's interested in me. Do I want to do something with this? And so that you're kind of just like in your mind, like, it would make things weird with the trail group if it didn't work. But it's also kind of cute, you know, like you're like, do I do something with this? And then after that,
We're calling that the crushing phase.
no, that's what did I just say?
Sussin?
I think I said the decision phase, the deciding phase. I don't know.
This sounds like a flow chart for executives.
Sure.
It's too official.
From there, you asked for this. From there, I would say like this is not a phase. This is a point on the timeline, which is the move, right? Like something happens. There is a move where you go from being two people that aren't a thing to two people that are a thing. Doesn't have to be a kiss. Doesn't, like for you guys, you were a slow burn, but there is a move that takes you a little bit further. And then
so the move in Anna's scenario is where she asks about the kiss, where she's red-faced, climbing the mountain.
I would say so, unless you guys were like holding hands or other stuff before the kiss, because you said you were a slow burn.
I feel like, yeah, it was. I don't think anything real physical happened until the kiss.
Yeah.
Even then, it was real tame.
Would you say that the ask on the climb was the move? Was that where you entered into the move stage?
No, I would say the kiss was the move.
The
I
kiss
agree
was
with
the move,
Chaunce.
okay.
Mhm.
Okay, from there comes the butterfly phase, and that's where everything they do is perfect and it's cute, and you see them at a little break and you're like, ooh, and you get to town and you're like trying to like slyly arrange who's in which like beds at the hostel, but you're in their bed even if nothing's happening, and you're just excited and everything is great and sunshiny. And then comes like the familiarity phase, and that's where like picture you're like 3 years into a relationship and you just like don't really like care too much anymore about appearances. So it's like, I'm not pretending that I have this super cleanly routine in my tent, like I'm gonna admit that I forgot to brush my teeth last night. I'm going to sleep in the same outfit I hiked in. I'm like no longer trying to like put up appearances,
Farting openly.
right? And then I would
Do
say,
you remember your first open fart?
yeah.
No, but I definitely asked him to put baby powder on my butt crack at some point.
Okay, that's definitely a
That's
stage.
that's that phase. That's that I don't care phase.
Yeah, baby
right?
powder. Yeah.
I would say there's potential here for an annoyance phase. This is make or break for where the flow chart goes. Either it continues or it cuts, where things they start to do that used to be cute become annoying. Like, for example,
Sounds like the beginning of the end stage.
Yeah,
to me.
sometimes, but you can get through that. It's mainly because at this point, time has passed and you're hiking through all of this and you're kind of like short-tempered and impatient and tired at this point in your hike. So you're just more irritable. And then from there, it's, just off into the sunset, ponies and rainbows.
Yeah, that was good.
Was that good?
Yeah.
I agree full-heartedly with all those things.
Oh,
Yeah.
good. Okay.
John did a great job.
Imagine you told me that that's like so wrong. I'd be so
I agree.
uncomfortable.
I'm like looking back now and thinking through all these things. I'm just like, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and then but before you finish, when you're nearing your terminus, I'd say okay, last phase is the 100-mile stretch.
Oh, all of these phases are on trail.
Yeah, this because you asked for the phase of on trail. The last phase is the 100-mile stretch, and that's the what does this become?
Yeah.
That's the talks of the future. Is this a trail thing? Does this go off trail? You might have broached the subject previously, but it might have always been in like a, in theory, hypothetically, if the, type of way. Now you got to lay down the law, right? Like, what is this? Am I leaving here with a boyfriend? Am I leaving here single? Like, what are we doing from here? Am I going to come to you? Are you going to come to me? Are we doing distance? You got to nail out those details.
Could be a White Lotus situation where you're putting out a front, like, yeah, this is going to extend forever, and then you just pull back the veil and it's a lie.
I'd say the 100-mile phase is where you ask those questions that we did,
Yeah.
because that's where you got to make that decision.
Cool. That was fun.
Yeah.
It's a new segment by Chaunce, I
Yes.
guess.
I love being here for my interview.
Yeah. Hey, Anna, how's it going?
Is this fun for you?
I'm still here. Don't worry.
All right, I'll shut up for a bit.
Quick question, just because you'd mentioned it. You said you had a short gig with Blue Ridge Hiking Company. Did you get
Yeah.
to work much with Jen?
I did a little bit. She's someone that is just incredible. We definitely hung out a few times, and she's someone I think that just really enjoys helping people find their way.
Yeah.
And so even when I got the job so after I worked at the hostel, I went back into quote unquote the real world and worked with a health education company, and their whole thing was just like providing continuing ed for different like doctors and nurses and people in the medical field. She like met me on my first day after orientation in Asheville, and we like went on a walk, and we were just talking about like, what do I want out of life? And I talked about wanting to write and be an author and all these things, and she's just an incredible person to know. So she has family ties to Burnsville, North Carolina, that's where my family's from. It's home to Mount Mitchell, if that means anything to anyone. It's the highest peak east of the Mississippi. But she and I and Cade and her family did a photo shoot for the tourism board in Burnsville. So look for photos of me and my hero
Wow.
on the Burnsville Explore Burnsville page.
Sweet.
Do you know any embarrassing stories about her? She's going to be an upcoming guest.
Oh,
Also a past guest.
I really don't.
Well, I know, but because she's coming up, we want it fresh in our
Yeah,
minds.
sure.
That's super duper cool. But no, I don't. I think she's a person that a lot of people like myself can credit of just like, you're the first person that like put through hiking in my mind of like seeing that this was something that was possible.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
she's incredible.
It's very wholesome.
We should get that information from Brew. I bet he'd help us
Oh
out.
yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
We gotta get like a rapid fire,
Sure.
and we'll just rapid fire her questions she
Yeah.
will not see coming.
The funny thing is, even if we catch her off guard, we can't rattle her. She's unrattleable.
That just makes me want to. Let's get our kids on the phone. We'll ask them questions. They'll spill the beans.
They would
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah. Tell us about caretaking the AT bunkhouse in Hot Springs.
Yeah, it was an incredible experience. Again, I was only there for a couple of months, but it was just super fun because, one, it allowed me to still live on trail. I was in Hot Springs. The AT was literally right outside my door, which is really special. And it was just fun, too, because it's a really unique place in that, yes, it's a bunkhouse. Like, thru-hikers are welcome to stay here, but mainly we were supporting the different hikes and guided trips that Blue Ridge Hiking Company was leading. And so I would have some thru-hikers that came through. It was during Sobo season. I didn't have a ton of thru-hikers that stayed with me, but I had a lot of guests from the different hiking groups that would stay with me, and so that was always a really fun thing. I got to know a lot of really incredible guides. That was really what put guiding on my radar of just like, oh, like, these people are really cool. I think I could probably do the same kind of thing. Yeah, it was just super duper fun. It was a lot of work, a lot of cleaning, but that's just kind of par for the course.
Yeah, walk me through what's the day-to-day of the job.
So the bunkhouse is only 2 rooms, so there were, I think, 10 total bunks. And so depending on if I had guests the night before, I would go and like change the linens, clean the bathrooms, just make sure everything looked nice and crisp. Sometimes I had shuttles that I had to run, which I drive like a little teeny tiny car, and I got to drive their big like Nissan Armada, which just felt like an absolute tank. I think now they've upgraded to like a 15 passenger van, so that's even bigger. Would run shuttles sometimes, come back and set up gear for the different trips that we're going out. And so Blue Ridge is really unique in that a lot of their trips, clients get totally outfitted in gear, and so they would get sleeping pads, sleeping bags, tents, packs, and so I would like look at their heights, their weights, and figure out, oh, I think this person needs a medium pack, I think they need like a large sleeping bag, whatever it was, set out all that stuff and get everything ready for when the trips would come in, and then the guides would come and kind of just take it from there and help them get set up, like learn how to pack their pack, go over the itinerary, that kind of stuff. And then, yeah, shuttle them out to trail. And that was just kind of it. It was a very fluid schedule, which was really fun. And again, it was just a really perfect time, like coming off the AT. That's where I really got into riding. It was for the first time that I rode for the Trek, which was cool. So, yeah, I had a wonderful experience. The caretaker that was there this past year, she's incredible, and it's just a really, really good team. Jen actually just sold the hiking company, and so they've got a stellar team out there.
Yeah.
So,
so what is the vibe when you work at a place like this where it's not predominantly thru-hikers coming through, but thru-hikers also come through in addition to other people? Are they, like, do you see them coming in and they're as special as they think they are? Or are they coming through and you're like, oh, fuck?
I really didn't have many thru-hikers that had to mingle with backpacking clients, which was surprising. I think most of the traffic that runs through Hot Springs stays at Laughing Heart or one of those other places that are in town. I'm trying to think if I had really any interactions. All the thru-hikers, the Sobos that I met that year, too, I was just coming off of my thru-hike, so I was like super pumped because I was like, oh my gosh, hey, like I also just finished this hike. So it was really fun to connect with them. I didn't really get anyone that thought that they were like hot shit or anything like that, which I know that elitism is definitely a big thing on the trail. But I think a lot of the clients were just like fascinated by me. Not because I'm anything special, but because I had just come off of this trip, and they're like, whoa, what was it like to live in the woods? Or like, what did you eat? Like just all the kind of rapid fire questions that people are really interested about. And two, it was just, again, so fresh for me. And so it was really, really fun to just talk about And I think that was just a really unique experience because most people, when they finish the trail, people are interested in what they've done for like a week or two and then move on. You're on to something else.
Yeah.
To that point, I remember one of your first posts, maybe this was even your first post, was writing about imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
And like a lot of the people that you hiked with had grandiose plans to hike all the trails, and you struggled with the idea of being like how to present yourself and like what you thought of that. Walk us through that a little bit.
Yeah, I think imposter syndrome is something that I definitely struggle with, even still now that I have like more quote unquote credentials on my hiking resume, of just that it's doubting yourself despite the things that you've done. I think that coming off the AT, I was like super on fire, and I remember when I finished, I was like, I'm never going to do that again. And then I got back to the real world and I was like, man, like I really miss being on trail. I think a lot of people have that experience. And I know a lot of the people that I finished with in 2021 decided in 2022 they wanted to go out and they wanted to do another trail. My like body was not ready for that. Financially, I was not ready for that. And I remember thinking, man, like maybe I'm not as like committed to this as I thought that I was. So I think it really just comes down to being a conversation within yourself. And just trying to be kind and seeing that everyone's on a different path. So I think that's still something, like even coming into this interview, I was really nervous. And I was like, I can't believe they are letting me do this.
And then you met us.
Like, oh, I'm the smartest one here.
Yeah.
Having a great time. But yeah, just doubting yourself and I don't know, trying to play it down. So I think it's really important to try to hype yourself up and look at everything that you've accomplished, but to not compare yourself to others. I think that's really where it can get kind of sticky. So
I will say you did kind of just do that. Like previous to this sentence, when you were talking about the people at the hostel and you were like, they thought I was a big deal, like, but I had just done this thing. But they were like, you know, like you kind of just did that.
I know. It's a slippery slope. What can I say? So yeah, I think it's, especially when it comes to like social media, and I like follow a bunch of different hikers either that I hiked with or like these really prevalent like trail personalities. It can be really easy to get down on yourself and being like, well, like I'm not doing all the things that they're doing, or like look at this really good time that they're having, and like I'm crying in my tent, I'm miserable, I don't want to be here. Is this not what I'm cut out to do? So I think it's just a time where you have to really like go inside yourself. Introspective.
I think unless you're Andrew Skirka, everybody struggles with imposter syndrome to that extent. Because like everybody's done something more than you, right? Like basically the majority of the people that we interview on the show have way more backpacking experience than I do. So it makes me like everybody deals with that. It is certainly something that you have to grapple with. Yeah,
I know even Heather Anderson in her most recent book, The Mud, Rocks, and Blazes, she talks about imposter syndrome and how she felt like her first FKT just like was a fluke and wasn't this thing, and for that to come from this obviously like very decorated hiker,
for sure,
someone that I really admire, is just like, wow, that's kind of humbling. So.
And you know she's sincere about that because she's so humble about everything that she's accomplished.
Absolutely.
Like, she does not put herself on a pedestal. This is sort of a strange tangent, but maybe not. Another early post you wrote was about the 5 hardest sections of the AT that no one talks about. Sort of like underrated, challenging sections of the trail. Not to put you on the spot, because this one was written over a year ago at this point.
But do you remember all 5?
No, I'm curious if there's one spot that stands out to you in terms of like, I knew the whites were going to be hard, but this was hard and I wasn't expecting it.
Yeah. Southern Maine was really hard. I think that was probably on that post just because people talk about the Wildcats, like people hype up the Smokies, people hype up the whites, and I got to Maine and I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm so close to being done, this is incredible. And then Southern Maine just beats you down. We hiked through too like a bunch of different like tropical storms, so it was just like super wet all the time. I had a really hard time with all the like sheer rock faces. That was really scary for me. And it was just a lot of climbing, a lot of really crazy descents, and at that point too, you're just so tired and you're so ready to be done, but you're still so far. Like you get into Maine and you still have like 350 miles to go.
It is sort of a mindfuck because you're like, oh, I'm on the last state.
Yeah.
There's a lot of meat left in the bone when you get to Maine.
Even the first 5 miles of it are like, fuck you.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, get out of there.
Right.
They're kicking you back into New Hampshire.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. I was excited to get to that New Hampshire, Maine border. And then like 2 minutes into it, I was like, what the hell is this?
Yeah. And I'll even go a little bit more micro than that. I remember, obviously, everyone is anticipating the Mahusik notch. Because, like, yeah, because Chaunce is so buff. That's where she started her fitness journey. You get through that, and I didn't know anything beyond that point, basically. Like, everyone had been talking about the Mahusik notch for weeks. Then you get to the Mahusik arm, and that, again, everything's always relative to your expectations. I had no expectations, and that absolutely kicked my ass. I think I was dealing with like overtraining symptoms at that point, so my legs were just dead weight to me. But I remember that climb specifically just destroying my ego.
Yeah.
That's where Goose Pond is.
Yes.
Is right after that. I just remember that because the sun was setting, because we had planned the day for the notch, and everyone else was ahead of me. This is when I was in my like cry about everything phase. And I remember just holding on to roots, like trying to like pull myself up this freaking hill. And I knew that they were at the blueberry pancake place, and that's Goose Pond.
In retrospect, I was thinking of I think Stratton Pond, which is anyways. Also, so was it 2022 that you spent as a guide in the Smokies?
Yeah, this past year, and going back as soon as I get back to the East Coast.
Nice.
So I'm pumped.
Tell us about that. What is guiding in general? What is guiding in the Smokies like?
Yeah,
Give us
it
the
is
rundown.
just the funnest job ever. I tell people all the time that I'm getting paid to be on their vacation, which is kind of fun. It's just super humbling because these people come to me, and they come to our company as novice, and they're really like looking for our expertise. They're either, I feel like we have several different groups of clients, if you will. There are the people that have done this before, but they just don't want to have to plan the logistics. There are people that like did this when they were younger and they just kind of want a refresher, but then there's people that have never done this before, and this is super duper out of their comfort zone. And so I just take so much pride in being able to help equip people with the knowledge and the skills to just make them feel comfortable when they're in the woods, which is really cool. People get really jazzed about being on the AT and the Smokies. We do have a lot of clients that have never heard about the AT, and so it's really fun to be able to educate them on that and tell them like you're on this like the oldest footpath in America, and it goes all the way from Georgia to Maine, and sometimes we get lucky and we get to meet thru-hikers as they're going, which is just really fun. It's nice too, just because our days are a lot easier, if you will, just in that the miles are a lot shorter. I feel like that's the thing that can be tiring as a guide, is that like you don't get that autonomy. Like you're not the one that's, our company picks the route and we go do what they tell us to do, which is nice because we don't really have to worry about too much. But it gets to where we were really excited to go on the AZT just because we got to, like, if we wanted to crank out big miles, we'd crank out big miles.
Yeah.
We didn't do that a whole lot though. So
But you could if you wanted to.
We could if we wanted to. The option was there. But yeah, you just meet incredible people from all over the world and get to share this really, really unique place. I feel like I just gained this really intense appreciation for the Smokies and just that environment and just all of the different biodiversity that's out there. That was a really fun thing, was getting to learn more about the flora and fauna and getting to tell people about that, and just getting really jazzed about like, oh my goodness, look at this really rare wildflower that we're getting to see right now, or like here is one of the 31 species of salamander. Like, oh my goodness, y'all, we just saw a black bear. Like, let's do some education about like bear safety. So it's really, really fun. It kind of sucks when it's day 4 of rain and you have to be excited to be there. But you go through it and you come out at the end of these trips with this like group of friends that you never would have met otherwise. So I really, really enjoy it.
From the side of working, because it was working for the national park, right?
No, so we work with a company that works within the national park.
Okay.
So we just have a commercial user agreement.
Let me know if this isn't relevant then.
Okay.
But one thing I mainly remember from the Smokies was the rules around the shelters for hikers, where you fill out your permit to go through the Smokies, and then if you are in a shelter and someone with a reservation shows up, no matter what time it is, you got to get out. And I remember when I was going through the Smokies, I was like, there should be a time limit on this. It should be if they're there by 8 p.m. That way I'm not like already sleeping, and just making up all these scenarios that never ended up actually happening to me. But from that non-hiker perspective of someone who widely uses the park, what's your take on it?
Yeah, so with COVID, a lot of those things kind of shifted, just in that now you could camp outside of the shelters, which freed up a lot of spaces. And a lot of our clients don't like the shelters, believe it or not. They want to camp in their tents, which I'm always kind of surprised by. I think a lot of people are really scared of the mice. I'm just like, yes, let them come to me. I will be dry and I will be snuggled happily in the shelter.
Covering yourself with cheese when you go to bed.
Yeah, it's half the fun, Gotta live on the edge. That was something that we really didn't run into, which I was really grateful for. We got to a lot of the shelters, like especially so with our commercial user agreement, we actually can't camp in the shelters when the bubble is coming through. So we can't stay in the shelters until June. So we miss most of the bubble. So there are almost 100 different campsites within the park. There are 853 different miles of trail in the park, and only 72 of those are on the AT. So for a lot of our trips, we'll like bop up to the AT, hike for a couple miles, but then walk down to a different campsite. So that helps kind of navigate that traffic a little bit.
You're telling me that the park service itself, when working with other companies like your guiding companies, will actually put limitations on place when hikers are going through to help us not get in those situations.
Yeah, because it just gets super crowded, and you got to think, it's really annoying for the people, but think about those resources too that are getting just slammed with people. Like think about the privies that are just overrun, and in the Smokies, a lot of those privies are maintained either by ridge runners or by volunteers, and so they don't get a lot of attention. And even too, just the campsites that are at these shelters are still pretty small. Like their capacity is maybe 20 people. And when you have 50 people, that just does a discredit, one, to the people, but also two, to that environment. And so I think they try really hard to kind of mitigate that by putting in place these commercial user agreements that say like, okay, we have to be here and here, we can't be here during these times. But again, there's so many different facets of the park. A lot of the AT just runs through the ridge line, and a lot of our clients, they want to see the AT, they want to be on the ridge, but you get so much more, there's a lot more water, there's a lot more different plants depending on the time of the year at the lower elevation. So a lot of our clients really like camping down there at those lower sites that you don't get to see on the AT. So it's just a really interesting mix. Again, I'm not on the admin team on for our company, and so I don't know all the things that go into commercial user agreements, but that's the gist that I have for you.
What's the name of the company?
It's A Walk in the Woods, just like the book, but ironically, the book came out the same year that the hiking company started, so they're not connected, but it's a good, people are familiar with the name.
Yeah, of course. You mentioned part of the gig is educating people on some of like the more rare flora and fauna in the area. Give us some fun facts. Like, what are the things that excite you that you see out there?
Oh, man. I get really excited about bears. So the Smokies has the largest population of North American black bear anywhere in the lower 48. There are, I think they say, around like 1,800 bear in the park.
Is that measured by the amount of bears in a national park, or
I think it's per square mile.
Okay.
So they say, the park is, oh gosh, it's been a minute since I've been out there, y'all, so bear with me if I get my stats wrong. I got to brush back up before I get there in a few weeks.
I love this accent that's coming out. Still, you're talking and that's all I'm hearing.
It's Tennessee, baby. We gotta pour it on thick for you.
Keep going.
But there are...
Chaunce is in the exploratory phase right now.
Yeah. Testing the waters.
Oh, man.
It's a good demo system.
There's, lots of bears. People get really excited. I think a thing that I was really surprised about were female black bears really don't get that big. They only get to be about 150 pounds, which is like around my weight. And so I always, for clients, like get down on all fours and crawl around. And I'm just like, I'm the size of a black bear. It's always fun when we do see bears, especially if they're around shelters, because then we get to give them our best, like, hey, bear. One of our coworkers always likes to cuss at the bears. So we get real into trying to make them just feel bad about themselves, insult their mothers, just all the things to try to scare them away from the shelters.
What are the best bear insults you've heard?
Yeah. Sounds like...
Oh, gosh.
You could pretend Zach's the bear.
Please.
Oh, man.
Zach's in the exploratory phase now, too.
Can you spit in my mouth?
Talk to me like I'm a bear.
I feel like you always got to insult their moms in some way. I feel like my coworker always just is just
Are you
like,
sure
fuck
you're not
you,
from New
bear.
Jersey?
Like, it could be. There's a lot of bear up in there. I don't know. I'm blanking. I talk a lot of big game, and here I am just choking on my
one
Bears
opportunity
leg.
to
You can
impress
look at
people.
facts if it helps.
Oh, I haven't turned around this
It's a resident horse.
Oh, man.
Inflatable horse is staring at you wearing sunglasses.
Honestly,
It's kind of intimidating.
I was going to say I'm a little intimidated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Bears are cool. We get really excited about flowers. The Smokies are some of the most behind like the Amazon rainforest biodiverse place in the whole world. There's a really cool program, Discover Life in America. They're partnering for I'll butcher the acronym, but it's like all biodiversity taxonomy something. Basically, they're cataloging everything that you can see with the naked eye, and so that's everything from like insects to mammals, birds, fish, and to date they have I think like over 21,000 species.
Jeez.
Of those, like 5,000 were things that they didn't know existed in the park, and like 1,000 or 2,000 were things that were new to science. And so one of my coworkers actually discovered 2 of the things that they didn't know were in the park. It was like some kind of beetle and maybe some kind of other creepy crawly critter.
Did
But,
they
like,
let them name it after herself?
No. Have you heard about
What's the point of
the something that Taylor Swift, or was named after Taylor Swift?
No.
There was like a centipede that was discovered this past year that the biologist that found it was a big Taylor Swift fan, and so they named it after Taylor Swift. I can't remember
Incredible.
the name, but
And
it was real funny. That's it. That's the
Oh,
end
I
of my
thought you
story.
thought you were gonna say they didn't like that. And
Yeah,
they changed the
and then Taylor
rules.
Swift actually sued them for copyright. Just kidding.
I want to
yeah.
meet the Taylor Swift centipede.
Even like last year, they discovered an entirely different species of salamander in the park. So now there are 31 different species of salamander in the Smokies.
You threw that number out very confidently. I was going to
Yeah.
ask about that. So there's 31 species of
31.
salamander.
Mm-hmm.
Name them.
Oh, I can't do that. There is one that's endemic to the park, though, the Jordan red cheek salamander, and you only find those at high elevations, which I've seen them a lot in the shelters at the AT, lots of the springs. They're a little black, and they have really like prominent red cheeks, so that's pretty cool.
So I would imagine most people listening to this are familiar with the Smokies through the AT capacity. Again, maybe I'm just projecting. What are some highlight stretches of the trail that are not on the AT?
There's so many. Y'all have interviewed Nancy East,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Oh,
And
yeah.
she's like,
By the way, shout out to Nancy East.
We
She
love
sent
you.
she sent the nicest care package as a present for having a bunch of kids. So that's all that I have. But
What she put in it? She was
it
telling
was a
me
bunch
about
of it was a bunch of local stuff. Some of the stuff I will omit because it's not supposed to be shipped.
Sex
Wink, wink.
toys?
Oh God. God. You can use your imagination, but no, nothing inappropriate like that. But a lot of like local stuff. She sent popcorn from Asheville, candied nuts. She sent a very thoughtful letter. She sent pretzels for the dogs.
Aw,
Yeah.
Nancy.
She thought of everything and a really
She's
sweet note.
and you know what? She also got when we interviewed her, she brought that children's book for Leo.
She's the best.
Yeah.
I want her to be like the godmother of my children, basically.
You can ask her right now.
Oh, maybe we'll see her children.
Oh, you're gonna save it for then?
Yeah.
Okay.
I gotta give her the rose in person. Sorry, cut you off.
Can't mention Nancy around us. We get riled.
Yeah,
Oh, she's
it turns into
incredible,
a mini segment.
We're in the
each time.
discovery phase.
I think you're
I think we're
past that.
sussing.
Yeah.
I think we're sussing.
We're sussing this out.
But she's an incredible Smokies celebrity, if
Yeah.
you will. Where was I going with that? Oh, different cool trails in the Smokies. Yeah, there are. So she did the FKT for the Smokies 900. So there are, I think, like 853 actual trail miles in the park, but a lot of them you have to do other trails to complete. So it ends up being 900 miles if you hike all of them. But I say that to say there's a ton of trails to do. One of the most popular is definitely Alum Cave. It takes you up to Mount LeConte, which is this incredible mountain. It's, I think, one of the highest mountains, not in terms of elevation, but from base to summit, it's one of the tallest.
Prominence, yeah.
Which is pretty cool. You can stay at the lodge, which is up there. It's an old, like, everything is completely off-grid. So they run off, like, kerosene and propane and that kind of stuff. The way that they get supplies up to the lodge is actually via llama, which is pretty cool. So several days a week you can see the llama train going up there.
Have you stayed up there?
No. Well, they have a shelter that's up there. So you can camp at the shelter. So I've camped there, but I haven't gotten to stay in the lodge. But fun fact, that's actually where Kate and I got engaged.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Tell us.
There's a really pretty overlook there called the Cliff Tops, and we hiked up there. It was like a surprise. Yeah, it was really beautiful.
You were not expecting it at all?
No, so I'll tell y'all the story. It's not a extinct story or a long story, but his family was in town. It was like the weekend before we were moving, and his brother, who lives in Mississippi, so Cade and his brother Caleb thru-hiked together, and so I got to know Caleb also when I was getting to know Cade. And so his brother really wanted to go hiking. I was like, man, like I do this for a living. Like I don't want to go hiking. It was a Saturday. He wanted to go up Alum Cave, which is arguably one of the most popular trails in the park, which just means it's really crowded. And I was like, I really don't want to do that. Pitched kind of a big fit about how I didn't want to go hiking. But Cade like got up that morning and like made me a big breakfast. I was like, come on, like it'll be so fun. So we go hiking. It's me and Cade and Caleb and his fiance McKinley. We get up there, and it's beautiful, bluebird day, not a cloud in the sky. Have a great time. We get up there, and our friend Pimento is there, who we hike with. And I'm like, oh my God, like, what are you doing here? And turn around, and there's Cade down on one knee. And there was like a whole random like track team that was also up there, and so they all applauded. We got a lot of really fun pictures, but it was just really special because like our tramley was there because I hiked Cade and Pimento and Caleb, and
wow,
it was really special. So Pimento is the one that we've done the ACT with. He's one of the ones that's eating ice cream in the car currently.
When you saw Pimento, did the red flag go up being
yeah,
like,
did you know?
I'm going to turn around and there's going to be...
No, because he was supposed to come and visit us like a week or two before that. And so I was just like, oh, like you're just here to stay with us for funsies. Like I had no idea. And it's so funny because like they were all taking videos of me because I had no idea anything was happening. And I get up there and I'm just like, Pimento, like what are you doing here? And I like will go over and give him a hug and I'm just like, I just can't believe that you're here. This is so funny. Oh my gosh. And then turn around and I'm just like, oh, I'm crying. And
I will
really
say
sweet.
that's one of the best, like, to be a friend of in one of those settings. My friend Paris from the AT and his fiance got engaged on a 14er.
Aww.
And since I'm out here, I had gone and I was like taking sneaky videos. But dude, every time she was catching her breath down the trail, we were like looking at the ring. We're like, okay, and she'd come up and we're like, oh, it's hard hiking, isn't it? You know?
Man.
What a good way to get engaged.
I'll tell y'all something too really special. So my engagement ring has the elevation profile of the Appalachian Trail on Roan Mountain, like around not Grayson Highlands, the Roan Highlands, like up from Carver's Gap on it, because that's where we're getting married. And then his ring has the elevation profile of Mount LeConte, because that's where we got engaged.
Do you have your ring on hand?
No, I didn't bring it
I know,
out here.
I was looking at your fingers.
I know. And even in pictures, you can't see how cool it is.
That's so thoughtful, though.
Yeah, he did a really good job. He's a good man.
Well, we have to meet him.
Yeah, for sure. Where did you get these rings made?
There is a jeweler who I was introduced through Blue Ridge Hiking Company. They have a store in Asheville, and they sell her jewelry there. But her name is Courtney Reckon, I think. She's based out of Vermont, and she does trail-themed jewelry. So she has a bunch of stuff from the Long Trail. She has AT things. She has just, like, northeast things. She does rings. She does earrings, necklaces. She's incredible. Everyone should check her out.
Yeah.
Especially if you're going Sobo and you are in the 100-mile phase.
100-mile phase. That reminds me, I did a day hike last year with my mom at Guanella Pass, and we got close to one of the lakes up at the top, and off trail to our right was some lady dressed in a ghillie suit.
What? I have one.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Well, for what?
This is off topic.
Okay.
You continue your story.
I forgot what she asked. She's like, hey, y'all, did you happen to cross paths with, like, a couple of hikers behind you? We're like, no, we didn't see him. Sorry. We're like, why are you dressed like that? It wasn't hunting season.
She's a photographer?
Yeah, so she was waiting for him to do the proposal so she could get the photos. Yeah,
wow.
She was waiting for her best friend.
That's commitment.
That is commitment. That's awesome.
Oh, yeah, that's a good suit.
Yeah, we crossed them shortly after the engagement on the way down, so we got both sides of it. But, yeah, that was fun. No real...
Mine was, I went to a friend's wedding in Louisiana, and there was a day we were doing, like, a an alligator swamp tour.
Oh, yeah.
And we were supposed to dress like different aspects of the swamp.
Right.
So people were dressed like alligators and lobsters, and I was dressed in a ghillie suit.
How much does a ghillie suit run?
It really wasn't that much. And I got it on Amazon, and I had a gift card that I won at work, so technically it was free.
We need to find an excuse to do a podcast in ghillie suits.
I mean, I kept it. I'm gonna keep it. Look at this. This is me with an alligator.
yeah.
I also had Garrett the night before, like in the hotel room. I had tried to scare him, so I just like laid across the bed in it. He ended up not being afraid. There's me partying in the ghillie suit.
I think I remember that. I was giving you
Look at
grief
you
for not
go.
drinking Hurricanes, which is
Yeah.
like the official drink of swamps.
Yeah, we can make a bet after this, and if I lose, I have to wear the ghillie suit. It's really very comfortable.
Fair. Tell us about the Arizona Trail.
It was the desert. That's what.
So you loved it.
Sounds like a sticker.
Yeah.
Needs to be made. Arizona Trail. It was the desert.
Yes, I think I did a lot of research going into it, but I just really was not expecting how harsh the desert was. And again, like being from the East Coast, maybe too, I was just very jaded, but it was just very hot, very exposed. It was beautiful. This year was incredible because it was a super bloom. So we got to see a ton of different wildflowers. We all geeked out of like trying to learn what the different flowers were. We have this really fun app called Seek that we use to identify things. And so we had like Seek challenges going to try to see who could like bag the most stuff.
They have games on it?
Yeah, you can actually earn badges, which is really
What?
fun.
Back to the Foursquare days.
Mhm.
That is an app that trail families need.
Yeah, it's super duper fun.
Do
Especially
you use
if you're-
that while guiding?
Yeah, heck yeah, I do. So it's powered through iNaturalist.
I know that one.
Yes. It's incredible. It's super duper fun. Really user friendly. I think a lot of kids really like it. Honestly, it's probably targeted at kids, but the adults really like the badge aspect. Gotta catch them all. You know?
I assume that's not free.
It is free.
Oh, wow.
Seek is a free app.
Are there ads? What's the model? Because usually, like, I found like the good plant identifier. At least the apps that I've looked at have always been paid, or like there's like a freemium
it's
model.
totally free. I haven't gotten, maybe I'm just not advanced enough to where you have to pay for the different things, but I was concerned just because I've used it in the Smokies. I was like, I don't know how well it'll identify the plants out here, or at least in Arizona, and it did fantastic. It was really fun too because I would see a lot of things. I'm like, man, this looks similar to a plant that I've seen in the Smokies, and it was cool because they would be in the same family, but then they would just be different species of a very similar plant. So that was just kind of fun to geek out on. But yeah, the Arizona Trail was beautiful. It was definitely more, I don't know if remote is a good way to summarize it, but just, again, you have to consider, like, I'm coming from the AT, super duper popular, really, really crowded, really well known. We saw, I think the most like congregated group of hikers that we saw were maybe like 15 or 20 people at one point. The trail towns are definitely trying really hard to promote as trail towns, and people got really excited. The trail angels that are there are incredible and will do anything you need. But it's just further apart from town stops. The elevation definitely was different just in terms of you weren't doing like a ton of puds. Like, yeah, they're there, but you'd go up and then go down and then you're flat for 30 miles.
The glossary police needs you to define PUD.
Ooh, pointless up and down.
Yeah.
I feel like the AT is just iconic for that. People get real angry about just like, man, I climbed this hill just to go back down. We love a wooded summit on the AT. So I will say in Arizona, you get just like incredible long range views. There aren't anything other than like cactus and maybe some ponderosa pine that are gonna mess with your view. But it was just totally different. I'm super thankful for the experience. So we decided to get off in Pine, which is like 460 miles of the 800. When we came through, there was just a ton of snow, ton of just like gross mud, and people had snowshoes, and we just decided we didn't want to deal with that. So I think a lot of people are making it to Utah by taking different alternate routes, because the northern rim of the Grand Canyon is closed until June because of all that snow and different damage to the Kaibab Trail. But we just decided that we didn't want to do that. So that too was pretty humbling, having to decide to get off trail. But
I guess it's something that's worth discussing because my attention has been so focused on obviously the historic snow and the PCT this year. And I know like the San Juans have gotten hammered as well. So it sounds like it's been a massive system that hit Arizona too.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we decided when we were in Superior, Arizona, like the first or second week of April, that we were probably going to quit in mid-April. Just because we thought that the snow was still going to be really, really bad. So the north rim of the Grand Canyon, like, is totally shut down. Like, visitor center, all the things, all the roads are closed. And we just got really intimidated by that. A lot of people that were deciding to push on were purchasing snowshoes. That's something that we just don't have the expertise in. It's like, we came out here to hike in the desert, and now you're telling me I need to get snowshoes. Like, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, they got a ton of snow. It's definitely melted off a lot since then. We've talked to one of our friends when we got off in Pine. He decided to keep going, and he's going to make it all the way to the south rim of the Grand Canyon. He said that there is definitely like 10 to 20 miles that are still pretty snowy, but he's made it fine. Just like slogged through a lot of mud, lots of snow melt and things, but it's definitely possible. And there have been a lot of people that have finished because of the alternate routes and things. So it's kind of, I'm disappointed just in terms of like, I think we might have called it too soon, but also we've had this incredible opportunity to take a really cool road trip because we decided to get off. So we'll go back and finish it sometime.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, you can also go back.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So I think that was part of it too, talking about imposter syndrome. I'm just like, man, I've been a thru-hiker and like I didn't finish this thru-hike. Like, how does that feel? So that's been a really humbling thing to go through.
I'll tell you this, I kicked myself to the ends of the earth when I skipped the Sierra when I did the PCT, but when I went back and did the JMT in August, and it was like swimmable alpine lakes, I was like, I would have literally been so upset if I just made myself go through it.
Yeah,
Go back and do it when there's less snow and less,
Yeah, I think it's definitely something that we want to complete at some point, but it also is just like, I'm not in a hurry to go back to Arizona now.
I think you chill out a bit after some hikes. Like, same thing with what you're saying about not caring what your pack weight is, and that really frustrates certain people, is I think there's also a point where you're like, I'll just go back and do it a different time.
As cliched as it is, you hike your own hike. You do what's best for you. So, yeah, I don't think it takes away from, like, my other things that I've done, and I'm super thankful for the experience. So, it was cool.
Also sounds like it's a pretty common thing this year for people to, like, if they finish, they're doing some...
Yeah, you have to get really, really creative, it looks like.
Yeah.
So.
Did you know going into it that there was a high probability that things would just get fucked because of all the snow?
No, honestly, like, we talked about bringing micro spikes just because the beginning of the trail. So, like, the first day you get to like 10,000 feet on Miller Peak, which again, East Coaster. Whoa, that's like double the mountains that we have at home. And we dealt with some snow there, but it was only for a few miles, and it was still really easy to walk through. Like, I post-holed a little bit, but nothing too crazy. And after that, honestly, like, it never crossed our minds to use spikes or anything like that. Again, we were, when we got to Superior, we're on one of the Facebook pages for the AZT, and people that were ahead of us were just, it was a lot of fear mongering, honestly. But I appreciated the trail reports of just the conditions and things, because that's ultimately what we based our decision off of. But yeah, we did not anticipate. We thought that it would be a really like clean cut. We're going to walk to Utah. We parked our car near the terminus. And so we're just like, we're just going to walk back to our car. It'll be fine. So it was some logistical things to jump through to get back to the car.
Well, and we were chatting before we hit record here that, and you just mentioned this, that the AZT hike turned into a epic road trip adventure. Take us through some of the highlights of that.
Yeah, so we decided, again, in Superior, that we were going to hike to Pine. When we stayed at that Trail Angel's house that I mentioned earlier, that we ended up staying at her house for like 2 or 3 days, Pimento decided that he didn't want to hike anymore. And so myself, Truffles, and our friend Radiator were going to do the last 100 miles from some highway 83 maybe, to Pine. And in that time, Pimento was going to fly to our car and get our car and drive it back down to us. Yes, so he stayed with this Trail Angel for a whole week. God bless you, Becky. And she drove him to Phoenix, where he got a flight to Page. And our car was in Bigwater, Utah, with a Trail Angel. And so that Trail Angel picked him up, and he got the car, and then he drove down to us in Pine. So we got our car in Pine, and we drove to Phoenix to stay for a few days with some of our friends that we met when we were guiding last year. Stayed there for a few days, and then we went to Sedona, stayed there, and hiked around a lot. It's been funny because we've been doing the like van life thing of like camping on BLM land. And I was telling Zach earlier that we're in a Honda Accord with 3 people. We have a cooler and we have some tents. We got all we need. So we went to Sedona, and then we went to Flagstaff, and then we went to the south rim of the Grand Canyon, and then we went to Zion, and then Bryce, and then Capitol Reef, and Arches and Canyonlands, Great Sand Dunes, Rocky Mountain, and now we're here.
That's the highlight tour of the Southwest.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we've seen a lot in a very short amount of time.
If you could go back and relive one day of your national park experiences, what would that be?
Oh man, I think my favorite was probably Capitol Reef because I didn't know anything about it going into it. And it was just really fun. We've only been at each of the parks for a couple of hours, and so that was the place that we spent the most time. We spent like a whole day there basically hiking around. This is, I feel like, really just been like getting to see the sites. So we've been there and learning. We definitely want to come back here, and here are some of the things that we want to do. Like, for example, in Zion, we didn't get to do the Narrows because they were closed from flooding. We didn't get to do Angel's Landing because we didn't get a permit. We know we want to go back and do those things. So yeah, it's just been a really fun, crazy adventure. I'm definitely ready to go home. So
That's the honest mark of like that. The vacation's done. I'm ready to be back in my home. Yeah,
exactly.
That's a good place to be because in probably 2 weeks you'll be ready to get back out of your house again.
Yeah, so it's wild. We're getting married when we get home, so it's a crazy time.
I know we veered from the ACT, but I want to hop back to it before we close out just for one last question / perspective. Going back to what on the first trail was the comfort / annoyance phase. I hope I named that one the comfort phase because I think that's what it was.
Dark exploratory decision, sussing, the move, butterfly, familiarity, final 100 miles.
Okay, take out familiarity and put comfort there.
Okay.
And then put a little asterisks of potential annoyance in between that and 100 miles. When you're in a trail fling and you're like in the formation of the fling type of position on said trail, like the option to leave is always there, right? Like, this doesn't work. Cool, I'll hike slower, I'll hike faster, I'll bail on this person. Versus when you start a trail with a person as your fiance, you kind of lose that option to ditch should things not be going well. And I feel like you start in that comfort / annoying phase. Was there any differences that you noticed or things that like felt like the dynamic had shifted a bit doing the AZT?
I feel like we just know each other so much better, and we are so much more comfortable with each other to where it's just like, man, you're really getting on my nerves. Like,
That's the annoyance phase.
I need some time. And
It's called being married.
Yeah, exactly. We always joke and call each other our common law spouses at this point, which, I mean, we haven't been together that long, but yeah. I think that we can tell when we're getting on each other's nerves, and we're just so much more comfortable. Like, when we were on the AT, like, we were still trying to get to know each other, and like, just like you said, everything was just like butterflies and rainbows, and we just want to spend all the time together. Versus here, just like, man, like, you're hiking slow today, like, I'm gonna just jet on past, I'll see you at camp. I mean, he has the tent, so I really gotta try to catch it. Let's own a cowboy camp with all the scorpions. But yeah, I think that we are much more comfortable being quiet around each other at this point, and we don't need to like talk the whole time, which was good. And yeah, just being honest, it's just like, you're getting on my nerves, or just like, I think you're being a baby about this, or just like, I don't want to do this. Or, and it was just funny too because we had Pimento was with us, so that's like a totally different
third wheel, just being like, Mom, Dad, stop.
Yeah, hard third wheeling. Yeah, we love Pimento.
Did you guys get any major fights?
Yeah.
Such as?
It's so stupid, and he's gonna listen to this and be like, what the fuck are you telling those people?
It's okay, he's not here right now, you just dish it out.
At one point we got into a fight. So I'm from North Carolina, he's from Mississippi. We live in Tennessee together now. I have switched everything over to Tennessee, like my insurance, my car, my license, everything. Kate has still not switched his stuff from Mississippi.
He's not still paying like state tax, like state income tax, is he?
We're gonna plead the fifth on that one. Honestly, we did separate taxes this year. I don't know.
That's the one perk of Tennessee.
Yeah, everything's a lot cheaper, that's for sure. But he's from Mississippi, so everything's pretty cheap there too. Fair. But yeah, so I was telling him, so we're getting married at the courthouse first, and we're having all of our legal stuff done there, and then we're having our like fake ceremony basically up on the AT at Wren Mountain. And I was telling him, like, man, like, I hope that that's not an issue since you're still technically like a Mississippi resident, like, you really need to try to get that stuff taken care of.
And this conversation's happening on trail.
Yeah, like, Pimento's, like, right in front of us. And I'm just like, oh, like, I just thought about this. Like, maybe we need to try to get you to be an official Tennessee resident before we go to the courthouse.
Otherwise, the marriage isn't official.
Exactly. I thought it was totally valid, and I said, I just really feel like you're not committed to me yet. You're not a Tennessee resident. Why have you been?
Pimento starts hiking at 5 miles per hour.
Dragging your feet on this.
And what did he say to that?
He was not happy. He really was just like, why would you question my commitment to you? We've done all these things together. Obviously, we're going to spend our lives together, and had to have a come to Jesus moment, you know, and we worked past it. And I think he's going to become a Tennessee resident when we go.
So what you're saying is he's still not.
Well, we've been in Arizona for a while. We've been living on the land, you know?
Fair.
So, I don't know. We'll see how that transpires.
Yeah.
But
wow.
So you won the argument.
I love them. Have you lost any of them?
Oh, absolutely. I have to apologize all the time. Like, even yesterday, we were out to eat. Because we've been treating our road trip very similar to how we've been treating trail life, of just like, we don't want to spend a lot of money. Like, we haven't stayed in hotels. We've been camping. We've been eating ramen every night. So we went out to dinner last night prior to coming to this interview. And I had a really hard time deciding what I wanted to eat, to the point that I had to send the waitress away 3 or 4 times because I just couldn't decide. And he was just getting real hangry, and she's like, Hannah, I just can't believe it. I'm like, I'm sorry, my indecision has led to us not being able to eat at a reasonable time. So yeah, just small things, but again, it's part of being married, just like stupid stuff that you look back on and you're just like, what is going on here? So yeah, I don't know.
I like this.
Chaunce is swallowing a thought right now.
I just want more. I'm just thinking about like how, like, if you start dating someone on trail, like, they've seen you at your like, not at your worst in terms of like your angriest or like your most like largest mental collapse or anything like that, you know, that can happen worse in the real world, but they've seen you at your worst in terms of like how little you care about just like your general appearance and like state of being. And I just feel like it's such a different dynamic with that foundation.
Yeah.
Where it's just like...
It's like Love is Blind.
Like, there's people that, like, there are people... I'm in a lot of really weird Facebook groups just because it's funny to, like, just read what people post. But there are people that haven't, like, pooped in the same house as their husband. And it's been 3 years. And they're like, when have you guys first pooped in front of your husband? And I'm like, I have literally... been hooking up with a guy on a trail and had him keep watch because there was nowhere to shit and I had to shit. And so I've had him keep watch from that far away while I've just gone. Like, that, all bets are off when it's a trail romance. So to bring that into real life, I think is just such a different thing.
Yeah. It's a really unique foundation. I feel like our relationship was really amplified, or that's not the right word, but really just like sped up. And that, like, we'd only known each other for like a month, and she's like, all right, we're gonna spend our lives together, because we've had this like 24 hours constant exposure to each other. And yeah, it was I don't think it's the best way to meet people, but I mean, it worked. So
you definitely skip a lot of the small talk bullshit portions
Yes.
of the indoctrination process.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you get right to the meat.
Please use the proper termination.
Oh yeah, what phase is that? Is that sussin?
Were you not listening to my long rant?
The dark phase?
No, that's before you meet them.
Yeah, I get it. Well, Anna, time flies. We're already over an hour and a half into this convo. This has been a ton of fun. Let people know, where should they go? Obviously, you've written some awesome articles for the Trek. At least a couple of these we featured in the Trek propaganda section. But your Instagram, all the good stuff.
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram. I think it's Anna McKinney 22, which might be changing here soon since I'm getting hitched.
You're making it Instagram official with a name change?
I know. We'll see. I don't know. Still trying to decide what I want to do there.
Have you played the game yet where you try to like keep a straight face and tell them you want them to take your last name instead?
Oh, we talk about it all the time. Because
it's such
his
a fun
last name
game.
is Smith. Super generic. I'm like, come on, you would be such a good Kate McKinney. Hasn't worked yet, but I think I'm going to be Anna McKinney Smith.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. But yeah, you can find me on Instagram.
I was going to say, like, Anna Smith is a pretty
super generic.
common.
right?
That also kind of sounds like a celebrity. It's like so
Anna-
basic
Anna
that
Nicole
it's
Smith.
almost.
Anna Nicole
Oh,
Smith.
that's it. Yeah.
I
Okay.
need to get some surgery done first. But
And go digging for gold.
yeah, there's lots of that on the AZT. So.
There you go.
Yeah, find me on Instagram. I have a blog, Magic in the Mountains, where I write a lot of other random things. I have an article actually about the trail romance of Kate and I. So if you want a full deep dive, you can go to my blog
juicy.
to find that one. Those are the only places you can find me at the moment.
Why are you laughing at me?
Chaunce did like the cat on a keyboard.
I don't know where you got cat from. I'm just me.
the way your hands went felt like it was not attached to your body.
I'm self-conscious.
I'd love to get your explanation as to what was happening there.
I was doing a fake little Google. That's not silly.
Yikes. Okay.
What do you mean, yikes? What do you mean, yikes?
Wait, no, this has been fun.
I hate you.
Yeah. No, honestly, this has been a ton of fun. Before we wrap, what's next? What are the hikes on the agenda? What's obviously getting married? That's pretty big.
Yeah, we're getting married in June. Hoping to honeymoon somewhere this winter since that's our off season. We've said that we want to try to Triple Crown after this experience on the AZT in the desert. I don't know how that's going to go. I think it would be nice to have something to look forward to after the desert. Of just like, man, I'm going to get to the Sierra and get to see all these cool things, or I'm going to get to Yellowstone, or I don't know. We have a lot of ambitious things that we want to do. I'm from North Carolina, so I would really love to do the Mountains to Sea Trail. That's something that's definitely on our radar. Yeah, just trying to figure out married life and what we want the rest of our time to look like.
Yeah,
So,
good luck with that.
Thank you.
It sounded condescending. Yeah, good luck with that.
Well, thank you so much for making this happen. This has been a ton of fun. I'm glad that it worked out. Hopefully we didn't mess up your schedule too much. But yeah, this has been a ton of fun. Thank you.
Cool.
To the Trek propaganda portion of today's show. This one is a fun one by Rachel Shoemaker. Italian hiker discovers 2,000-year-old buried treasure. An Italian hiker from an archaeological group discovered a buried treasure that dates back to as early as 157 BC, according to an April 14th news release from the Superintendents of Archaeology, Fine Arts, and Landscape for the provinces of Pisa and Livorno. The hiker made this discovery while walking through newly cut forest northeast of the Tucson city of Livorno. They noticed a shiny object on the forest floor. When they stopped to investigate, realized that they'd come across a collection of dated silver coins, rather. After conducting a thorough investigation, researchers from the Livornese Paleontological Archaeological Group reported finding a total of 175 ancient Roman coins called denarii.
Denari. Yeah.
Are you familiar with that?
I just feel like that's a word people know.
Oh, I've never heard that before.
I couldn't define it for you. It just is a familiar
I wonder if that's
word.
the origin of dinero.
I'm Italian.
Of course.
Half.
These coins, which were found along with remnants of terracotta pot, would be worth tens of thousands of dollars in today's currency. So just another reason to get out on the trail. Is all the treasure that's buried out there.
Okay, this is an ethics question. Did he get to keep the coins he found and make the the tens of thousands of dollars? Or did he just have to hand them over and they were like, thanks, pal.
Yeah.
Also, these were worth tens of thousands of dollars.
It's a good question. Who owns the land? Is that the person that owns the property?
Who finds the coins? Is it not finders keepers? This is a really thin line we're walking on.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to probe you into an answer here.
Should we chat GPT what the legal...
Actually,
according to Italian law.
One of my Facebook groups is called Ask a Lawyer. And so I see people posting questions for lawyers in this group all the time. I should ask them this.
Lawyers are going to be of the way of the dodo bird here pretty soon with ChatGPT.
I just think like if okay, I understand the concept of this guy not keeping them wholeheartedly. I think they should go somewhere safe. But just don't tell him that then they're worth tens of thousands of dollars after the fact.
Yeah, right.
You know, it's...
You found this trash on trail that could potentially be...
Thank you for handing it in.
Funding your retirement.
Also.
Right. Okay. Triple Crown. This was supposed to be in the last episode.
Yes.
We fucked it up. Triple Crown of things serious thru-hikers don't compromise on.
Yes.
And I think, as is tradition, we're going to interpret this pretty differently.
Yeah, I'll start with the one that I had. This is my initial thought.
Yeah. Define what you interpret this to mean.
There's no like set definition. It's just like I just see a vision.
But
I'm not thinking one serious thru-hiker. I'm thinking like a range of different serious thru-hikers. So one of my answers might not apply to another because there's different types of serious thru-hikers.
Yeah. I think what I'm trying to allude to is the fact that I think you're taking a more literal interpretation, whereas I'm taking serious thru-hiker very loosely and giving it the general application of like, this is what I feel about it.
Yeah, my first answer is 100% just to poke fun.
Okay.
And that is their egos. Things serious thru-hikers don't compromise on. If you find a thru-hiker that considers themselves, this is a self-proclaimed serious thru-hiker, because I feel like there's a lot of serious thru-hikers who don't call themselves serious thru-hikers, but someone who goes out of their way to say, if you
call yourself a serious thru-hiker, you are a serious thru-hiker.
Right, you probably are, but you also probably don't compromise on your ego.
It's true.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Anything to add?
Yeah. Well, so I'm interpreting this again. I'm rounding myself into this, but I don't consider myself a serious thru-hiker, so maybe that's the difference. But I guess my interpretation of this is just aspects of thru-hiking that I was more emphasizing the things I don't compromise on as opposed to the serious thru-hiker part of it.
We can have different answers.
Okay. So the first one is that my first dinner out of town has to fuck. It has to be bomber.
So you are calling yourself.
I'm just saying. I feel like a serious thru-hiker would agree with this claim.
Okay.
In that it's going to be, I'm packing out restaurant food for sure.
Am I meant to be calling myself a serious thru-hiker in this?
If you feel yourself.
So you feel yourself.
I feel myself all the time.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. So once I cross the threshold of being a very serious thru-hiker, which is now what I am.
Yeah. Where was that threshold?
Once I started packing out a serious dinner for the first night on trail after being in town.
Okay, and you were saying the serious dinner includes.
It just means that it's good. It's gonna, because you're fresh enough out of town that something that you got from a restaurant would still be fresh and delicious. I don't compromise on that now.
I was gonna say that, like, that would be where I would say things like I would put a serious thru-hiker probably has a little more street knowledge than a new thru-hiker, in that leaving town, your first meal out of town has to be leftovers.
Yeah.
They have to be perishable town leftovers. If you're not eating, like, I don't care how you pack it, right? Like, I shoved pizza in my fanny pack leaving Timberline Lodge, right? Like, I don't care how you pack it.
In a Ziploc or just
no,
the pizza
just
itself?
in the thru pack reposted it. They were like, "This is funny," and I was like, "This is my life." No, you are packing.
Do you still have that fanny pack to this day?
Yeah, I have
it
3
smell?
from them.
I imagine like
No, I'll
cheese
give them
and pepperoni grease.
I'll give them a little unsolicited love right now. They were the first ones to send me free shit, and this was when I was a no one. But I was just like, people get free shit, and I asked them for something. They were like, sure. And the guy's mad chill. He sent me a new pack for the AT actually. Yeah, and he let me customize the AT one. I love them. They don't pay me. This isn't a paid thing, but I couldn't find the one that I had made for the AT when I was going to hike the Ozark Highlands Trail, so I just took the blue one I had from whatever trail was prior, and it was just the one that was available, and it worked great.
I just asked because I feel like cheese and pepperoni grease would compromise.
I mean, it's like compromise amongst what? Like, what is it around? It's around like
you're putting your phone in there.
Let me talk to you about my gear. My pack from the Ozark Highlands Trail, we are now a month and a half removed, is in my car right now, and I have not touched it since I got in my car after the trail. So the food bag is still in there along with whatever food I packed in there.
Yeah.
And the longer I get from the trail, the more I don't want to approach that. So all of it just has a general air of ugh.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty bad. That's pretty bad.
Yeah.
Okay. Now the pizza in the fanny pack thing makes a lot more sense.
But no, packing out food from town, huge.
Yeah.
I've packed out a salad from town. I've packed out, like, I've bought a specific, like, I'll go to a place to get a sandwich for lunch, and I've bought a separate sandwich specifically so that I could have half for dinner and half for lunch the next day. If you aren't milking your in-town trips to at least get a day and a half of fresh food options on trail, get serious.
Yeah. And I feel like specifically the first meal that you have when in town is very planned and preordained. But the first meal that you have, or I guess I should say what food you pack out of town is way more impulsive. It's like something you cross at a grocery store and that just grabs your eye and like, that's the thing that I'm eating tonight.
Yes.
And that's what makes it so glorious.
Because you have days to think about what you're going to have in town.
Right.
Like when we were resupplying in Mammoth on the JMT, I had been thinking about a chicken parm for days. I wouldn't shut up about chicken. I don't care about chicken. But in that moment, I was its biggest advocate. Coming out of town, I'm full, and when you shop full, you don't shop like with your stomach, and so it's just
Shop
like
with your
whatever
heart.
is convenient. Yeah, what does my heart feel? I wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah.
Good one.
I guess I have another one.
Yes.
This one, again, these are just things I feel really passionate about, so this is how
Sure.
I'm interpreting it, is when I'm doing a backpacking trip and I'm leaving my home, I overpack toilet paper because I'm very particular about not using shitty toilet paper, no pun intended.
Shitty like covered in your shit already, or
No,
shitty like one
like
single ply?
out of a gas station, because that's a big bummer.
Yeah.
Especially on a day where I'm working through many dumps, just go into town, metaphorically speaking, going to town in my bung with like wax paper, toilet paper is a real bummer. So I want to make sure that I go into that situation with the good stuff, and for that reason, I'm leaving my house with not a full roll, but maybe somewhere closer to like a third of a roll, which is too much. But I don't compromise on having very soft toilet paper.
Hey, I'll agree with you there. Like, I am a big wet ones fan, and you don't bury wet ones. I mean,
that's why I don't go the wet wipes route.
Oh, I'm willing to carry a sandwich bag of my shit wipes just to have a clean, soft, like hard on hard, like hard paper on hard ass is not the funnest feeling, but you get a nice smooth, that's nice.
I go the combo route. So I do most of the work with the toilet paper, and then I do a finishing job with the wipe.
Oh, so you do bring wipes?
I do.
Okay. Yeah, no, I agree. Cool. I had something to say, but I forgot it. Anyway.
I've never had someone end my monologue about wiping my ass with, cool.
I mean, how many people do you monologue about your ass to?
Just you and Jenna, really.
Yeah. I have a special place in your heart, and I know it. Okay, my second thing, serious thru-hikers don't compromise on, is not people pleasing. Because, like, if it's your first thru-hike, you want to stay with the bubble. You want to do what the crowd's doing. I'm really tired, my feet hurt, but everyone's going to get pizza. I have to go because I'll get FOMO if I don't, right? Like, if it's not your first time around the block, fuck that, right? Like, I'm tired. I'm going to lay in bed. I'll see you guys when you get back. We probably won't even hike this whole way together anyway. You know, like, you kind of, like, just don't care about pleasing the group or doing what other people want to do. You more get into that phase of, I'm feeling this right now, and like, this isn't like in like a bitchy way or whatever, but it's just like, I'm feeling this right now, so I'm gonna do this and you do that, and like, this, like, there's no shade or anything, it's just, I'm doing this. And you get less weird about doing that, because I think you're more comfortable in your environment, where in the beginning you're not comfortable in your environment, so you want that like group decision making to reinforce the decisions you're making. Versus if it's just you, like, even if it's something like going to the next shelter or going to take a blue blaze up to a view that other people aren't doing, and it's going to delay when you get to dinner, like, you don't care because that's what you want to do, you know?
You're going to hate this.
What?
I think you're describing hike your own hike.
Yeah. Serious thru-hikers don't here's the thing,
I don't disagree with you. I think it's a really good point.
Non-serious thru-hikers are still in the phase where hike your own hike is like a laughable phrase that everyone's like, haha, that's stupid.
Yeah.
Right? Like, hike your own hike. But then, like, I'd say a serious thru-hiker, even though they won't necessarily say it because it's like a cliched phrase, they embody it.
Sure. Yeah, I do think that there's you start out knowing hike your own hike, and it does feel cliche and dumb. Like people who haven't done the thru hiking thing are going to mile zero with the knowledge of hike your own hike, so that does feel cliche for that reason. And then you get to like the condescending part of it, and then to your point, I think there's another phase where you're like, actually I need to not conform to the wills of the group in ways that don't benefit me, so hike my own hike.
There you go. My next one's like a close swerve of it, which is carrying whatever the hell you want to carry. Because you get, and I think this was reinforced with what Anna was saying too, with what she was carrying and how she likes her comforts. And like she almost said it like modestly, but at that point, this is what me and Fireball were talking about on the OHT episode, where like we were talking about on the trail how there's like a curve where you start hiking and you want to like go as ultralight as you can and narrow down your pack weight as much as you can and be as light as you can. And then after a certain amount of hiking, you start to realize like I'd be more comfortable if, for Fireball, for example, I had an inflatable pillow, right? And you start then adding stuff back in, where in the beginning you're cutting stuff out. Now you're adding stuff back in. And now anyone can say to Fireball, carrying an inflatable pillow is stupid, it's not worth the weight. That doesn't mean a thing to her, because she's not compromising on something she has gone without, realized I like it better with this, and has learned from not carrying the weight versus carrying the weight that this weight is worth carrying.
Yeah.
So you find like, and like Anna was saying about, I don't even know what my pack weight is anymore. It's kind of funny how it pisses people off. You get to a point where you don't give a shit what your pack weight is. And you also don't give a shit if it's got some extra stuff in it, because even if someone's like, oh my God, why are you carrying that? It's like, shut up. I'm carrying it.
Yeah. Yeah. So you've kicked the ultralight habit to the curb and you're modestly light.
No, like my pack is still light as shit because I am a 5'1". Like I don't like being in pain, and I would rather eliminate my comforts than feel the slightest amount of pain. So I'm still in that boat. However, my mindset is not in the I need to trim. It's in the who cares? Really, who cares?
Yeah. I mean, I still think you can have a really light pack weight, but I think to be true ultralight, you are in the mindset of like cutting every extraneous thing.
Here is the part that this is where I had this realization for myself personally. And this is where I would say, if I'm to question someone's credentials and be like, are you ultralight? This is where I would question it. Are you micromanaging what you're packing out of town for food? Because I was so strict about what I would pack in terms of, am I going to bring nail clippers? Am I going to bring a nail file? That's an extra 0.1 of an ounce, you know? And then I'd get 3 Snickers because they were at the register when I'm leaving, you know? And it's like, what the hell does that weigh?
Yeah.
And so if you're truly that ultralight, are you basing like your caloric intake off of weight to calorie ratios?
People
and, like,
do that.
And if you do, sure, like you all bow down to you. You are ultra light, right? But if you are in the mindset that I'm in, which is I've gotten my base weight as low as I can, and then I'm going to the store and I'm shopping with my stomach, you don't give too many fucks then, do you?
Yeah. No, I think there's a point where your pack is light enough. And you've said this before, where like you get your pack to the point where it's light enough that you can justify carrying
100%.
Stupid shit out of a Trader Joe's.
But some people won't justify that.
Right.
And that's no shame to them, right? Like, good for you.
Hey, hike your own hike,
You
Chaunce.
have the ability to think deeper into things that I have the capacity to when I'm on trail. Because when I'm on trail, I can't think about that. I'm thinking, I'm hungry, what will I eat?
Yeah.
And
I do poke my head into the ultralight subreddit from time to time, and it makes me giggle because some people they go way too far with this stuff.
But when they do enough, they're going to come back out.
Not always.
I think you have to go in to come out.
Not always. You just get some people that are very spreadsheet minded, and I don't think that Rachel's this way.
Yeah, Rachel, he's talking about you.
But like we interviewed Mike Cleland, and there's some people that just like they become obsessive about getting the number down to a certain thing.
But their joy is the number.
Yeah,
it's
totally.
not
There's
about
nothing wrong with it.
the weight. It's not about the weight.
I totally agree.
It's about crunching numbers.
I
They're
agree.
numbers people who like the spreadsheet, who like to crunch those numbers. It has nothing to do with the weight. It has to do with beating a game that you're playing with yourself.
Totally agreed.
Which is fine. Everyone loves that.
Yeah, whatever floats your boat. if getting your pack down to -4 pounds is the thing that makes you happy, go with the lightest possible pack. It's just that's not the thing that makes me tick.
Yeah, I think for a majority of people who are not spreadsheet people, like, you do it because you think you should, and then you slowly start to realize I didn't sleep as well in that stretch because I didn't have my pillow. I was less well rested during the day because I couldn't hike the miles I would have with a good night's sleep. This is actually worth the wait. And it's not just frivolously bringing stuff out of fear like you do when it's your first thru hike and you're like, well, what if I don't have this and this is fear? But it's, I have gone without this, and going without this, I know it's worth my pack being X heavier to have this.
Totally.
And that becomes an informed decision that a serious thru hiker will make versus a novice thru hiker who's basing that decision off of fear and uncertainty.
Yeah. I've been using the inflatable pillow since the PCT probably. The PCT is where I went from the short sleeping pad to the long sleeping pad, and I've never looked back.
See, you came out too.
Yeah. No, there are just certain things that
Anna did too. She said she used the short sleeping pad and then she went for the full.
She uses 2 sleeping pads.
Exactly. I think a lot of people will go into that and come out of it where it's like a rite of passage and then a realization of what am I trying to prove.
You don't learn what your line is until you cross it.
Yeah.
Totally. I think that's something that is, I would encourage people to start off heavier and then slowly whittle down and then maybe cross that line a little bit without it being unsafe, and then find yourself on the other side.
And I'm not saying don't cross that line, because I actually think there's a lot to gain from seeing how much can I cut, because then you actually know what can I do without and what do I really wish I had. And if you were just like, well, the weight doesn't matter, and you carried it all from the start, you're not really testing your limits. Not that you have to.
Yeah.
You could get through it all and not have to. That's fine. But I think there's something to learn about yourself from doing that.
A.T. Zach would have said that I needed like a nice switchblade knife, and I haven't carried anything more than like a shitty Swiss Army knife since then.
I mean, we went to drinks before the PCT, and I told you I was bringing a hammock to the desert.
Yeah.
And you kept a straight face, which I really do commend you for.
Hey, I will never talk somebody out of the thing, because you never know what.
Yeah, but now that I know you, I know what you were thinking.
Yeah. Well, but we featured a guy who hiked the AT last year carrying a leaf blower. So whatever makes
That's fashion, not function.
Pure fashion.
I thought mine was going to be function.
Yeah.
All right, cool. That's my 3.
My third one is another food-based thing. But even as nutrition becomes more of an emphasis for me on trail, just because I'm old and my body likes to break down easily, having a sweet treat, a dessert that I look forward to after dinner every night, and consequently that dessert that should be rationed out post-dinner every night on the trail, typically I eat it in the first 48 hours, sometimes faster. I'm talking about Oreos. It's almost always Oreos.
Sure.
That's something that I don't compromise on now. Like, even if I'm trying to really like dial in my food on trail and not be a piece of shit, which rarely happens, but there's always at least one item that is just pure gluttony that I'm going to look forward to. I'm going to think about within 30 minutes of getting to a water break. I'm going to be like, I'm going to eat 2 Oreos at minimum here.
I didn't think about this, but that actually is something that I would never compromise on, is a daily dessert.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean I have to eat it at dessert time, like right before bed, but I'm trying not to burp, a junk food-esque type, clearly a snack. This can't be reworked into anything but like a junky snack, 1 per day. And I now intentionally do that on trails where I'm trying to be more conscious about like not overpacking food, because I pack food with fear. But when I'm laying out my food and like, okay, I get this snack and then I have breakfast and I have this snack and then this lunch and then these 2 snacks and then dinner and then this snack and then bed, I always in every single day will include a dessert. And it could be gummy worms, it could be peanut M&Ms, it could be regular M&Ms, it could be like whatever bullshit it is, I will have that because I need to look forward to that each day. And that'll go towards my honorable mention, which is my honorable mention is treating yourself like a child. And I think a lot of times when you're hiking on a trail, like you have to give off this like, I'm like not macho, because I don't think everyone who thru hikes is like that macho appearance, but I got this like confidence. And for me personally, like, I think, like, when I'm in that kind of pain suffering mode, like, I act like the biggest fucking baby I've ever acted like. And I think learning, like, not that that's, like, something I should try to not do, more that's something that accept the fact you're going to be this child on the trail and then appease that child, right? Like, giving the kid a dum-dum, you know? Like, make sure you pack yourself the dum-dum so that when you are acting like a dum-dum, you can pull it out and be like, oh, lollipop, you know, and just pacify yourself.
It is really tough to be that upset with a donut in your mouth.
100%.
Yeah.
And, like, especially if you, like, I've done, how many times have I bribed myself with food where I've got to climb, I don't want to get up. And I'm like, I did this on the Ozark Highlands Trail where it was like, when you get to the top of this climb, you can eat your lollipop. What fucking 31-year-old says that to them? So, you know, but it's like, when I get to, and I would repeat it in my mind, when you get to the top of the climb, you can eat your lollipop. When you get to the top of the climb, you can eat your lollipop. And it's just like not fighting that childlike aspect, but more feeding into it and being like, well, then what can I do to bribe this little bitch?
Yeah. I think it's smart. It's positive reinforcement.
Yeah, that's my honorable mention.
That's how brains work. My honorable mention is similar to what you said. And I think maybe you have stronger thoughts about this one than I do, though I do think about this. It's just not making any of your decisions based on what the peanut gallery thinks.
That was my second one.
Yours was about what your hiking family thinks. The peanut gallery specifically being like the online community.
I would count that as people pleasing, but I will accept the variation.
Yeah, certainly very different, because I feel like I've never done anything on trail where I've really even factored into what the online community would think about me. But oftentimes I'm thinking about the well-being of the group. It's just not in my DNA to think about the peanut gallery, but like I have since received some backlash for, I've talked about this before, aqua blazing through Shenandoah, and it's just funny to me. Like it makes me want to talk about it more, because somebody that gets upset about the way that I did a thing is, to me, comedy. And I think serious thru-hikers would never make a decision based on the perception from somebody in a Facebook group.
I'll echo that, because the majority of hate I've ever gotten from the internet was when I skipped the Sierra on the PCT. And that was my first hike. And so when it's your first hike, you don't know this in the moment, but you are seeking validation. Like, tell me I'm doing this right, because I have no idea what I'm doing. And when everyone's just coming at you and pummeling you with your, like, a failure and you've done this wrong, like, you absolutely think that's true, you know? Because I don't have a past hike to base this off of. I don't have past experience to base this off of. I'm freaking winging it out here. I have no idea what I'm doing. And then you get these people on the internet that you just assume are coming with such a force because they know, because they've done it, when half the time that's not even the case. It's just like someone who just likes the trail, who's watched enough vlogs to think they know what's up, you know, like coming at you with this like just belief system, and it's so stupid. Like, and I think that was why I took it so much to heart, was that at the time I wasn't a serious thru-hiker. I was an absolute newbie at it, and I didn't know what I was doing, and I was like really sponging up everything coming at me to try to learn more about it. And when everything coming at me wasn't great, like I absolutely listened to it. And now I'm just like, I don't even read the comments, because half the time I probably won't like them, and so I'm just not even gonna look at them, because that doesn't affect me. You know, like the change that happens is big, but I think when it's your first hike, it's really hard to tune that stuff out.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. The peanut gallery wasn't as vibrant of a thing in 2011, so it wasn't until after the fact that I realized that the number of people that have even commented has been small, but it still makes me laugh.
Well, I've had people reach out to me on Instagram this year, like after our PCT episodes, that are 5'1" like short hikers on the PCT, and they're like, what's your advice for this? And first and foremost, I'm not out there. Like, don't listen to advice from someone who's not there. But also, like, just like the general advice I gave them was just like, don't fucking listen to the internet. Like, talk to the people around you, talk to the rangers in town, assess the situation, look up the weather stuff, and just tune out the crap online, because that's what it is.
That is excellent advice. Yeah. There's no right or wrong answer aside from listen to yourself and let the online community factor into your decision 0%.
There should be a Facebook group that is not hikers only in terms of fuck everyone else, but like for example,
only, like fans only.
No. Like for the PCT this year, there should be a closed PCT Facebook group that is a hikers only PCT Facebook group. Send a picture of your permit or whatever it might be to gain entry to it, and it's just hikers giving hikers beta, and then you can block out all those third opinions of people that are sitting there like, well, I watched so-and-so's vlog and it looked hard.
Yeah.
You know?
We do private Facebook groups for trek bloggers broken down by AT and PCT. We don't have enough city people to justify a group, but for that exact reason.
Yeah.
It's just like there's so much negativity that floats around in those bigger groups.
And it's hard to filter it.
Totally. 100%.
Oh, you can always get me down a rabbit hole on this. Change the topic.
Yeah. So those Triple Crown of serious things thru-hikers don't compromise on. I feel like your first one was poking fun at the serious thru-hiker,
Well,
and then
yeah,
you
'cause
kind of came back to my side of the thing.
Because you sent this message, and 0.2 seconds later, I sent that back. Because that was just like what my brain immediately thinks of.
I think it's fun when we take them in different directions,
Yeah.
especially because then we're not going to take each other's stuff. But
Well, you were so concerned about bringing me back, and I was like, bro, I'm back. I just need to leave for a bit.
I was just giving you a forewarning that I was taking it in a very different direction.
Yeah, I was there this
Okay.
time.
Yeah.
We need to figure out what Triple Crown that was where I was not on the same page. It was funny. I just remember that.
I'm sure somebody listening can give us
Sure.
that. I think it happens frequently. Pup date. Harper eats all the pork.
I told you about this.
Yeah.
Okay, you're saying it with a surprise. Pup date, guys. Tuesday we came in to record an episode with Rue. I left home for 2.5 hours tops. Harper is a very well behaved dog right now. She's actually in here off leash. I think she was actually doing worse on leash than off leash. Off leash, she's fine. I left for 2 hours. This is a dog that does not go through trash, does not destroy furniture, does not cause any sort of damage. She's now looking at me. She knows I'm talking about her. Okay, let me put this into context. We talked about the bachelorette I went to, and when I came home, I fell down the fence on the last episode, right? Prior to me leaving to go to Nashville for this bachelorette, I had sous vide. Maybe you'll know what I'm talking about. It's like a pre-marinated, like a leg of, not a leg, but like a length of a pork roll in a plastic packaging from King Soopers.
Okay.
It sits on the meat shelf. It's pre-marinated. You could see the juices in there. It's just like a mesquite barbecue pork or something. I've liked it before in the past. Got it again. I was like, I'll make this. It's usually just me eating because I live by myself. And so I'll make it. I'll eat what I'm hungry for, and I'll put it in the fridge, and I'll just like nibble at it at lunch during the rest of the week. Like, you know, no one's watching me. I'll do weird shit like that. And so I did that. And then like time came to go to Nashville, and I just hadn't done enough in advance to like have done the cleaning portion of everything because of who I am as a person. And so in my mind, I was like, what's in the fridge can stay in the fridge because it's cold, and even if it goes bad, it's still in its controlled environment. It can wait till I'm back. So I go to Nashville, come back from Nashville. Monday, I don't address the fridge. I just don't want to. Tuesday, we have this podcast. I leave for the podcast. Harper has eaten dinner. She actually has an automatic feeder. I had a gift card from work that I used on Amazon for an automatic like Wi-Fi feeder where I time how every day 5:30. Every day 5:30 she gets the food. So I knew at 5:30 she'd get the food. 4:30 we're here recording. 5:30 she gets the food. 7 p.m. I get home. There are paper plates because I am in one of those phases where I'm not stoked on dishes. So I've been using paper plates just to get myself through a day. And I had put a paper plate below the pork and a paper plate on top of it and called it a success. And there are paper plates on the ground, and they look like they've been used. And I'm like, what are these? Harper had opened the fridge. I don't know how she knew to do this. She opened the fridge.
Are you sure about that?
I opened the fridge and it wasn't in there, so she had to have.
How much force does it take? Because I feel like
I could see her putting her nose in it and pushing it. She can open my bedroom door if it's like a little bit shut, and she'll do it. She'll put her nose in, she'll wedge it.
Yeah.
Is
your fridge airlocked? Like, does it take pressure to?
It would take some force.
Is it possible the fridge was left open?
No, it's not possible. It's not
totally
possible.
Impossible. 0% possible.
Because one or two podcasts prior, I had left the fridge open the whole time, and I came home and I was like, I am an idiot.
Yeah.
And
well, I think maybe if anything proves.
No. So after that, I was very, very vigilant about when I opened the fridge, I closed the fridge. And I also haven't been using the fridge because I didn't clean it out. So I've been avoiding the fridge. More than anything, I've been avoiding the fridge.
There's a theme here.
Yeah, I am not a well-adjusted adult. We know that. But I've been avoiding this fridge. I know for a fact it was not open. She opened the fridge, went into the middle shelf, pulled out the plates that had the pork on it, and I had barely had any of it. I cooked it and I was like, I'm not that hungry. I had like a slice and put it away and never went back to it. She ate about 30 ounces, and thank God it was cooked, but she ate about 30 ounces of pork that night in addition to her dinner. And I get home and she just looks at me and she knows she did something wrong.
Yeah.
And she's still, the poops aren't solid.
Yeah.
But I posted an Instagram that was like, am I impressed or mad? Because I feel mad, but I'm also just like, how did you do that?
Yeah.
And that's like part of like today, if she was afraid with the thunder and lightning, like I just don't want to know what she's capable of.
For sure.
What are you going to play? You have what is this? That's exactly what happened. I didn't even know I was quoting that. I thought you were making fun of me, but I was like, what quote is this going to be?
No, I do have those two, but
Yeah.
it was two in line. I couldn't not.
Yeah, so she's here with us in the studio today because there was thunder and lightning and she showed signs of fear and cowering, and I felt bad, but B was like, what are you going to do if I leave and you're just here?
Fair.
You cannot put it in your poop.
Okay.
That's my pup date.
I want to test your refrigerator to see how much force it takes to open, because I refuse to believe that your dog can open it.
Look, I also refuse to believe it, which is why I put no thought into leaving it there. And yet I came home and it was all gone.
Yeah. Well, that's fun. I mean, she had a good time. That's all that matters.
She had a great time.
Yeah.
She was happy.
Yeah.
That was a happy dog I came home to.
Yeah. My dogs haven't had solid shits since Leo's been born, because he just throws his food in the ground.
Do you have a babe date? Like a baby update? Babe date?
No. I mean, they're babies.
Can you tell them apart yet?
They're getting harder to tell apart. Legitimately, everyone agrees with me about this too, because their differentiating feature was that Hank has a little bit of a skinnier face, and now his face is starting to get fatter. Legitimately, I have to pay close attention to what they're wearing to know which one is which.
Can you get a temporary tattoo and just like put a little butterfly on one arm?
It's a cliche, but I'm now convinced that every parent of identical twins does this. But we painted one of their toenails.
What color?
Oliver has like an olive colored.
You didn't get did you specifically buy polish?
I'm sure Jenna had that. I didn't do anything.
Because to put olive on Oliver seems premeditated.
That's my wife to a T.
Okay.
She's premeditated with a lot of this type of thing.
People really liked your Patreon snippet that Sarah had clipped of you talking about dusting off babies.
Yeah, I don't recall that. I'm going to be like blacked out in most of these podcasts just because I'm so sleep deprived. Oh, I guess this could be worked into a stupid thing of the week, but you might have noticed I was drinking coffee during the last podcast.
You announced it.
Big mistake, because I wasn't able to fall asleep until like 2 a.m. that night, and then I had to wake up to a infant disaster at 6 a.m., and that was all the sleep that I got. So on Wednesday night, I got 4 hours of sleep. Fortunately, I got a decent night of sleep last night, but I'm just struggling to exist right now.
Yeah.
This has been the case for 6 weeks, so I don't know. I sometimes question if I'm even speaking English. Like, if I will look at someone's reaction to what I say to make sure that I'm communicating in a common tongue.
Well, if you listen to the start of this episode, you came in really excited. Yeah,
it's starting to dip. After 2 of these 12% beers, I'm falling.
I was gonna say I think this is the in-person guest energy, but we have been here a while.
It has been a while. Should we put a bow on this?
Maybe.
Let's go to the requisite
mailbag
segments. Yeah, go ahead.
Zach, this is to you. I have to read it to you? Okay, I'll read it to you.
Yeah.
Zach.
I'm not gonna read a mail to myself.
Zach. With my PCT trek upcoming, permit for April 10th, I really appreciated your recent backpack. What do you mean your recent? I was there too.
Go
Whatever.
on.
I really appreciated your recent Backpacker Radio episode. Like you had to just write Zach on
This
hiking.
might have been an email
This
to
is
me.
fine.
And
this is fine.
yeah.
What, they email you personally and they don't?
Sometimes it happens.
I hate myself. It's okay. I really appreciated your recent Backpacker Radio episode on hiking the PCT in a high snow year. Daniel was great. Ned was outstanding. So cool to hear from one of the original trail voyagers. Plus, he had an abundance of knowledge on snow. Also, since you weren't sure we existed, I am a dry food eater. This all makes sense now. I'm no longer offended. More so when younger, as I was a super picky eater. I still don't like mayo or mustard and rarely eat ketchup. Nowadays, I may put guacamole or hummus on a sandwich. I prefer straight tortilla chips, though occasionally I use salsa. Sour cream, ugh. Barbecue sauce and ranch, no way. I used to eat salad dry, but now use vinaigrette. I do add olive oil and nut butters to my meals on trail. Emily Strider, Ron.
That is an appropriate email because I am shocked that there's anybody on the planet Earth that exists in that capacity, let alone somebody that listens to this podcast.
I can overcome my self-consciousness of being left out of that by discrediting everything she said.
Discrediting?
I can't give credit to eating tortilla chips plain, eating salad dry.
Yeah.
None of this makes sense.
No.
So the beginning shouldn't make sense either.
No.
So then in theory it all makes sense.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
I get it. Yeah, that's weird. I don't know how else to say it. I'm glad that you exist because all shapes and sizes the earth needs you guys. But somebody that just enjoys tortilla chips by himself, the dry salad is the... I guess maybe that's an attribute because I feel like a salad is way healthier if you don't have to drench it in ranch or oils or whatever.
You might as well just go out to the yard and start chopping the grass at that point.
Yeah, I mean, certainly that feels like an advantage. I'm jealous, if anything. But dry tortilla chips is the one that's maybe the weirdest.
What occupation do you think dry food people have?
They all have one profession.
No, just like general. Like you can spit off a few if you could think of a few.
What's that husky race up in Alaska?
They are not dog sled racers.
Icarod? No, what is it?
That sounds kind of right. Something rod.
I'll get to it. That would be my guess.
Why?
They're racing huskies in Alaska. Because it's a weird job.
Okay. Sure. I'm not even gonna...
Do you have no thoughts on this? You're just going to...
No, I was just asking you.
Okay, I'm going to ask you.
I don't know. I can't picture it.
I did a rod.
I knew it was a rod.
Yeah.
Anyway, 5-star review. Keeps Me Walking by A.T. Walls.
You're just going to skip past that?
Yep.
Okay.
Getting up and out on the trail before the sun rises is so much easier when I know I have a fresh Backpacker Radio episode waiting. Don't you dare make them shorter. I can usually get 7 miles down the trail before you get to Trek Propaganda, and by then the sun is starting to peek over the horizon. Congrats on 5 years. An idea for you. I know you are challenged by the socials. What?
This might be another one directly for me.
Okay. I know you are challenged by the socials. That's an insult to Mara. But you might consider setting up a Mastodon site. I would love to spend time at the trek.social trading photos, videos, and comments with fellow hikers. Tell Rachel to do it. Love you guys. This sounds like self-promo.
Yeah. The timestamp checks out. There was a moment on Twitter where everyone very much was mad at Elon Musk, and they created like a alternative social media.
I've never heard of this.
Mastodon. Literally.
What is it?
It's called Mastodon, and I haven't heard of it since about early February.
I've heard of Lemonade, which was like a quick fix TikTok before it gets taken type app.
Yeah.
It's basically just like Pinterest.
I'm certainly no expert in this realm, but I do spend a fair amount of time on Twitter, so that's the only reason I've heard of Mastodon. But
I will say we're probably not going to go on Mastodon.
No, we can hardly handle the few things that we have.
As you know, since we are challenged by the socials.
Yeah.
Cool. That was fun. Sticker code.
I want to go back to the mail that we got. I think if I could flip a switch and become a dry food person after thinking about it, I probably would.
Oh, 100%. I would be so much thinner.
Exactly.
Half of my weight is sauce.
it makes things so much more palatable. Like she writes about not putting mayo or ketchup on things. Like I would eat French fries at maybe a quarter of the rate that I do now.
If I could stomach a dry salad, do you know how many better food choices I would make in life?
I guess I'm just jealous. I went from being weirded out to being
We
like,
can't admit we're
shit.
jealous, though. That's something we have to mask with insults.
Yeah.
Insulter.
You stink.
That was good. That was convincing.
You stinky. Sticker code.
Tell us your favorite phase of the trail love cycle.
Ooh. Or give us your own
Or give us your own.
pyramid.
Yeah, or critique.
Yeah.
Give keyword on constructive. Give us some constructive criticism on that.
Yeah. I love that. Big thank you to our Chuck Norris Award winners on Patreon. That is Andrew, Austin McDaniel, Austin Ford, Brad and Blair from 13 Adventures, Brent Stenberg, Cameron Brown, Christopher Marshburn, Dane, Greg McDaniel, Matt Sukup, Mike Poisel, Morgan Luke,
I am your father.
Patrick Ciancialo, Sawyer Products, Timothy Hahn,
Solo.
and Tracy Trigger.
Fonts. That
You
was a
can
bad one.
Follow us. I blame the Quattro de Mayo celebration.
I had one.
I had two.
Why are you coming at me then?
You can follow us at Backpacker Radio on TikTok
Yep.
and
Still
Instagram.
exists.
At Backpacker Pod on Twitter, Facebook.com/Backpacker Radio. You can follow Chaunce.
You can find me on Instagram at Juliana_Chauncey, and you can get my book Hiking from Home, a long distance hiking guide for family and friends on Amazon.
Appalachian Trials and Pacific Crest Trials are my books. Check them out. Follow us on YouTube.
Yeah, we have a YouTube now, and it is populating.
Today's episode will be on there.
Yes, it will. And like even a teaser short, perhaps a Triple Crown short. You can watch what we look like when we are live and in the moment. It is worse than you think.
That's so bad.
Um,
Also worth mentioning, I don't know if we've said this in a minute, but our videos for our Patreon episodes are on the YouTube. I guess they have to be Patreon people.
yeah, that would be a sneaky loophole.
I guess if you want more video of us, Patreon is the place to go.
Yeah, unless you're really good at finding unlisted links.
Yeah, it's probably very doable. But I doubt
I guess with
anyone's
AI
that
today.
eager to see it.
If you find it, let us know. I just want to know if someone can.
I think they can just share the link. We're
Well,
now
that's
telling
that's
them-
cheating.
Yeah.
That is cheating. If we notice a video's got more views than it should, we will act appropriately.
You're going
No,
on
but
timeout,
but if you
master.
can find the link on your own accord, tell us how. I'm just curious at that point.
And I think, subscribe and follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you consume podcasts. I
Mhm.
think that's it for today's episode.
Yep.
Thank you so much for listening, and happy hiking.
Bye.